Hey everyone and welcome to another video. So today I'm incredibly excited to share with you my take on Zed. Now, over the past 2 weeks, I have played a ridiculous amount of this champion. I think I've played at least around 110 games straight of Zed between all of my accounts, sitting at around Diamond 1 low master tier level to really try and understand all of the intricacies involved with being consistent with Zed and also, trying to find out all the details in terms of what is the difference between the average Zed player in gold or platinum comparatively to the high level Zed players that we see on Twitch with the likes of Zed99 and LL Stylish or Laceration, all those really great Zed players. Now, I've watched a ridiculous amount of VODs, I've spoken to One Tricks, I've tried to find out all of those little details. So this is a very detailed guide, there's a lot of information in it, so you might feel a little bit overwhelmed. So I would recommend splitting up the viewing of this guide over a few days or at least potentially even a few weeks. Now, before we get into the guide, guys, just a little quick announcement. We've actually hit 8,000 members or about to hit 8,000 members in our Discord, and we're going to do a little bit of a community event. So if you want to check that out, head over to the event announcements channel over in the Discord. There's a link in the description below towards the Discord. It's a great little community for any of you guys wanting to improve at mid lane. So just a little preface here before we get into the details, guys. Zed is the definition of all the small little things matter. You cannot have a very blasé, casual, relaxed mentality when playing this champion. Otherwise, you're going to really find yourself being that coin flip Zed player who just wins one, loses one, wins one, loses one. And you're never really going to find your stride and really find consistency within your ranked solo queue matches. Zed also has an extremely high skill cap. So if you're not willing to put in the games with this champion, again, you're not going to find any consistency. And again, I'm going to show you how I picked up this champion later on within this video. And lastly, guys, please take your time with this guide. If you try to focus on every single little thing I talk about in this guide at once, your brain's literally going to explode. So I also have a little slide, within this presentation describing how I would recommend picking up a champion like Zed. So let's begin by breaking down all the differing room pages you can opt in for when playing Zed. We're going to go row by row, really talking about the comparisons between all of the options. So if you're not really interested in any of the details, you just want to know what page you should take if you're a beginner Zed, this is my go-to page, guys. Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Zombie Ward here with Ultimate Hunter, Transcendence, Scorch, double adaptive into either Armor or MR. If you're a beginner Zed player, I think that's a really solid page. If you want to understand more, I'm going to describe it. And we're going to go through all the differing options here, guys. So, starting over on the left-hand corner, Electrocute, for obvious reasons, synergizes very well with Zed's burst combo. Great for just any burst-oriented champion. Now, the second row here, the first option you have to make, do you want to be more of a burst, I guess, feast or famine Zed player, or do you want to play a little bit more calculated, a little bit more like a poke control mage, which I will, it sounds weird in reference to Zed, but I will talk about that later in this video. But for me personally, I love Taste of Blood because it feels like I can easily take a trade and just heal back up slowly with Taste of Blood because my combo is quite reliable to hit, so I can actually quite reliably proc Taste of Blood. And also, I found in the laning phase, because I have no mana, if I actually just slowly take short trades, chunk, over a period of time, not only am I going to make them go I'm also going to get the health advantage with Taste of Blood. So it's just a little preference thing there, although if you're smurfing in low elo, probably sudden impact's a lot better for those cheesy level 3, level 4 burst kills, things like that. Now, this next row is a little bit controversial. I've seen Zed players do a range of different options here. Zed99, obviously, really likes Zombie Ward here. Now, the great thing about this one is that it synergizes very well with Umbreglaive if you decide to opt in for Umbreglaive as Zed, and we'll go into the itemization. For me, I actually tried this build, and I'm actually not a fan of Umbreglaive at all, at least for the average Zed player, until you're literally at a challenger level. But we'll go into that later. But in saying that, even if you don't build Umbreglaive, you can, a lot of the time when you're playing Zed, you are going to be swapping to Sweeper at least after your first item. So you can definitely be start stacking this up, and obviously with pink wards and things like that. But if you don't really feel confident and clearing wards and swapping to Sweeper and that sort of thing, eyeball collection is equally viable. Then on the last row here, again, this is a very controversial thing as well. Now, you see a lot of Zed players, especially Zed99, go Ultimate Hunter, which for obvious reasons makes a lot of sense in regards to Zed's identity as a champion being quite ultimate reliant, although I somewhat disagree with that statement, which we'll cover again later on. But something to note here, again, you're pretty much guaranteeing to get a kill at least in the first 8 minutes of the game or around that number. And you're going to be starting to stack up this Ultimate Hunter. And the more availability you have towards your ultimate, the more kill threat, the more kill opportunities there will be. But on the flip side, Ravenous Hunter is very viable. It synergizes very well with your passive auto attack as well for healing. I believe you get like 20 HP per auto attack, passive auto attack, things like that. And especially when you're in the mid game, you can easily get chunked out in the side lane. And it's going to be really hard to heal up. But if you want to be more of a side laning Zed, I actually feel like Ravenous Hunter might be for you. Zed99 is obviously a little bit of a montage player, very fast. He plays high elo Korean solo queue, so the game's very fast paced. If you find yourself playing a lot slower games of Zed, I actually feel like Ravenous Hunter might be better for you. Again, I would recommend trying both and figuring out and actually feeling them out for you. For me, I like Ultimate Hunter, but, you know, Ravenous Hunter, extremely viable option. And I don't recommend, guys, you blindly follow a one-trick Zed's runes. You need to find what works for you, your interpretation of the champion. Don't just blindly follow Zed99. I actually suffered the consequences of that when I first picked up Zed. Now, again, on the right-hand side, sorry, we have Transcendence and Scorch. Now, I like this specific setup because CDR is really, really great for Zed, and more importantly, even if you go above the CDR cap, it turns into Adaptive Force, is completely fine. But Scorch, I love. I really, really love Scorch because it feels like it's such a reliable rune to proc. Now, Scorch is good on any, I guess, fast-paced early game champion that can reliably proc it. That's why you see it sometimes with Orianna, who can reliably proc it with the Q, or champions like Zoe, who can reliably proc it with Q and the passive auto attack, things like that. Zed, I feel like you can reliably proc it, and it's great for poking out your enemy, getting them in kill threat range for when you hit level 6, or at least chunking them out, getting a bit of an XP advantage, creating that kill threat at level 6. Now, just directing your attention over to the right-hand side here, there are a lot of high elo Zed players that also opt in for Inspiration Secondary with this Electrocute tree. Faker is one of the big advocates for this page as well. And the great thing about it, Cosmic Insight makes a lot of sense because you can utilize Flash and Ignite a lot. So extra Summon Spell CDR is very, very helpful, and CDR in general, because it makes you get to 45% CDR, which is very great on Zed as well, because the more CDR, the more access to your abilities, more mobility with your W, more access to your ultimate, that sort of thing. And Magical Footwear can be extremely good on Zed because you want to get and spend all of that gold, put all that gold into your first key item spike. Ideally, and the great thing about this one, it's going to allow you to get to your Youmuu's first item way earlier, because otherwise you're going to have to be spending that 300 gold onto your tier 1 boot, which is going to slow down that first item spike. So again, this is a very, very viable option. Yes, you have less poke in lane, but I feel like it is equally a viable rune page for you guys. So that's something I would also experiment with, and then decide for you, is the poke, is this extra poke damage with Scorch even worth it, that sort of thing. Now, moving on to the next rune page. Zed99 likes to go this page versus this is just the same one on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, we're taking Precision here instead of Sorcery or Inspiration with Presence of Mind and Legend Tenacity. Now, watching a lot of Zed99, especially, he likes to go this page versus very heavy CC-oriented comps that are still relatively squishy. So champions like Lissandra, what are some other ones? Syndra, things like that. He does go this sometimes. Now, I have tried this setup. I am actually a massive critic. I hate it. I think this is trash. I actually really, really don't like this setup. Now, for the average, I'm talking in behalf of any, I guess, Zed player up to at least low master tier. I don't really feel like you're going to get much value from this. I feel like Legend Tenacity, yes, it's okay and it's nice, but I always feel like if you're in a position to get CC'd and that really matters to you, you're either going to die or you're not going to get the damage off anyway. I don't feel like this is the be-all, end-all. I would way rather the extra CDR, because CDR is so important, from either the Inspiration tree or the Sorcery tree, or for me personally, I really love the Scorch poke damage. So when I play champions like against Syndra and Zoe, I personally feel like the Scorch damage really adds up. and allows me to have more kill threat than I would otherwise. Who cares if I can defend against them? I want to kill them. I'm Zed at the end of the day. Yes, presence of mind does feel a little bit nicer around 15 minutes in the game once you got 1 or 2 kills, things like that, but I'm just not a fan. I also see him sometimes go Legend Alacrity when versing some other compositions with less CC, but he still wants presence of mind, so more for extended fights. So if you want to be playing less for burst, but more for extended fights, he does go this sometimes. Again, I don't really understand that, because I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just go sorcery secondary? For those of you guys, unless you're versing heavy CC, even then, I would not recommend this page. I would recommend testing it to feel it out. Let me know how it feels for you. Personally, I'm not a fan whatsoever. Now, the last page here is the Conqueror page. Again, I'm a massive critic of this page. I don't really like it at all. I think there are some situations that call for it. I think the matchups or the games that call for it, sometimes when you're versing things like set mid, Mordekaiser mid, like a lot of those bruiser mids, you can opt in for Conqueror. You can also opt in for Conqueror versus champions like Echo, because you can't really burst them and they're long extended fights. So very tanky team compositions that you really can't burst. This is a viable setup for Zed. But again, what I've realized is that even if I'm versing, say, 3 tanky members, a lot of the time, I would still rather the electrocute and just be that champion that's going to delete the enemy AD carry. I feel like as soon as I opt in for this page, my early game skirmishing goes out the window, my laning's gone out the window, and I have way less threat onto the enemy AD carry. It's more of a sustained damage, bruiser shredding Zed setup. Again, I would highly recommend testing it for you guys out there in those bruiser-oriented games. Get your opinion on it, get a feel for it. But again, it's a completely different build. It's a completely different play style. You're less about burst. You're more about using your W and your ult for dodging CC and getting the max amount of damage off in long extended combos. Your laning trades change. It's not something you will be able to quickly alternate between, okay, here I'm going to play Electrocute, now I'm going to play Conqueror, but I play the exact same. You're not going to have the same success doing that sort of thing with Zed. So the way it works, Conqueror, and ever since the Conqueror nerfs as well, I think it really, really hurt. I think pre-Conqueror nerf, I think this was a very viable thing for Zed, but post-Conqueror nerf, I don't think it's that strong at all anymore. I actually don't take it at all. I think there's maybe like a few games where I really started to take it at the start of playing Zed, but then I just hated it. Really don't like it. But the way it works, obviously, Conqueror, stack it up in fights, extended fights versus bruisers. Presence of Mind, Legend Tenacity. You can also go Legend Alacrity with this page if you're versing not much CC. Coup de Grace, Taste of Blood, Osmond Hunter, that sort of thing. Nothing too special. I'm not really going to talk about this specific style of playing Zed in this guide either. If you want to know more about this specific style, I would watch more of Zed99's stream. Now, for summoners, guys, super simple. You're always going to be going Flash Ignite. Pretty straightforward. I don't think I really need to spend too much time there. Now for the builds. So, let's start over on the left-hand side. Longsword into refillable or HP pots here. So, this is the first controversial thing and preference thing that you guys really need to test both to see what works for you. Now, Zed99 most of the time goes refillable, although in heavy poke matchups, he will go the health pots here for the extra sustain in lane. Now, refillable is great when you can get away with it. But for me personally, and speaking to a one trick we have over in Oceania, which I'll refer to later on in the video as well, he also always takes the 3 pots. Now, I've actually turned and converted to the 3-pot goblin. I'm the 3-pot goblin now. I never, ever take refillable anymore. And the reason being is that the way I like to play Zed, if you want to play Zed relatively fast and aggressive in the early portion of the game, which I personally like doing, then these health pots really allow you to heavy trade. It allows you to maybe play a little bit more aggressive than you would otherwise. It allows you to stay in lane longer to guarantee that you can get a really solid first base. And it just gives you more options, because let's just say you stay in lane for a considerable amount of time trying to burn through the enemy mage's mana. Now, if you take health pots, you can stay in lane, 3 health pots, you can stay in lane for a very long time. And the great thing about that, if a skirmish then breaks out at 5 minutes, you stay in lane for 5 minutes, you're definitely, I would say 95% of the time, you're going to have a resource advantage, and you can basically guarantee that, in which you get a really nice 2v2, or whatever reason, and it just more opportunities. I feel like there's just more opportunities when starting the 3 health pots. So for you guys, I'll try both, and really get a feel for both of them. And I just had to do that as well when I learned Zed. Now, first item, always want to go in Serrated Dirk into Yomu's. Yomu's is absolutely the quintessential bread and butter item for Zed. Now, it's super important for so many reasons. First reason, obviously, CDR, gives you a great amount of burst, but the main reason is the active on it, the movement speed. Now, the great thing about the movement speed is that it's so versatile. It allows you to get to skirmishes faster. You can use it to get back to lane to generate more tempo. You can use it to gap close so you don't have to begin the fight with W. You can actually get in range to start the fight with R, which is absolutely crucial if you want to do the triple shuriken combo, which is the highest damage combo. So there's a lot of reasons why Yomu's is the best. More mobility, dodge skill shots, get into the fight, play fights better. All of these reasons, Yomu's is very, very strong. It's your bread and butter core item. Once you have this item, you're absolutely popping. Now, this is where things, again, get a little bit controversial, and I see a lot of questions saying, you know, which item do you go second? Now, I've tried all the different variations, and this is my conclusion that I've actually reached. Now, I would say 90% of the time, or 85% of the time, Duskblade is going to be your best choice. If you're versing a relatively, not a super tanky team, Duskblade is great because it makes your threat through the absolute roof. And the great thing, once you get both of these items, the enemy AD carry cannot play the game anymore. You only need to hit one shuriken. So I'll talk about a combo that we'll do later. As soon as you have these two items, you only need to hit one shuriken, E-auto, ignite, and you can just pop the enemy AD carry. They just can't live anymore. That's the luxury of having these two items. The burst with these two items is absolutely amazing. I usually build those two items 90% of the games. Really, really solid. Now, watching Zed99, the way he likes to play Zed is sometimes if he doesn't have enough gold to finish his Yomu's, he'll actually turn this Serrated Dirk into a Umbral Glaive because it's a lot cheaper, considerably cheaper than Yomu's, but it obviously has less damage and less utility, without the movement speed, sorry. So, if you like to play more of a roam-centric, maybe you can't kill the enemy laner, or you've already got really far ahead, for some reason the enemy screwed up, you're 2-0 already, you can go Umbral Glaive first item, or even Yomu's into Umbral Glaive as a second item to translate your lead and be a more roam-centric Zed player. Now, I actually don't like that roam-centric Zed style. I think it's quite niche to high elo Korean games. And even then, I feel like it's a very risky way, and you've got to be extremely competent at Zed to pull it off reliably. I think, again, for 95% of people, even in high elo in NA or EU, any of these regions, you will be better off with these two items. If you want to play the roam-centric, just go this one. Just personally not a fan. Now, if you are versing a lot of early armor stacking, maybe you have a very heavy AD composition, you can actually just sit on the last Whisper. You don't need to upgrade it to the Lord Dominic's or whatever. Just sit on the last Whisper, and the great thing about this, it will give you quite a bit of extra burst, a bit more kill threat in those skirmishes versus tanky junglers, which I also do sometimes, but again, I would say 90% here, 5% and 5%. But actually, to be honest, this could actually be like 80% of the time, and this is like maybe, I would say 15% of the time, and maybe this 5%. For you, you may never build this second, and I completely understand if you're the type of player that would never build it. Makes a lot of sense. Again, I'll try out all of them and get a feel for it. Again, you need to try out all of them to get a feel for what the items actually enable you to do. Now, the third row here, this is in my take on the third item. This is where you most likely need a little bit of durability. So let's talk about these items. Let's actually, so the most common one I usually go is here, Yomu's into Duskblade, into this one or this one. Edge of Night or Last Whisper. If I'm versing a lot of armor stacking, I'll go Last Whisper here as my third item. But if I don't need that, or I'm really far ahead and people just don't have enough gold to spend it on armor, or I just want to be, I'm versing a very squishy AD carry and mid laner and I don't need that armor pen at all, going this third item, Edge of Night, is really great because it gives you durability. What do these two items lack? What do Duskblade and Yomu's lack? They give you no HP and they give you no resistances. The great thing about this row here between either Black Cleaver or Edge of Night is it starts to give you a little bit of HP, and especially with this item gives you that spell shield, it can give you a lot more durability in skirmishes. So if you're versing any burst oriented composition, this is where that has like a lot of burst. This is where you probably need to build one of these two items. Now, if you're versing, I would say a lot, I guess, champions that have projectile threat abilities or CC abilities, whether it's a Nautilus or a Zoe or a Syndra or an Ashe, or like for the Ashe ultimate, Zoe Bubble, those sorts of abilities, very, I guess, linear projectile things that can lock you down. Edge of Night can be an absolute game changer and can literally win you the game. The only downside, guys, is that it does not give you CDR. So it's incredibly important to understand that. It does not give you CDR. So it is coming at a bit of a loss. Now, there are some Zed players that live by Black Cleaver third item. Again, it feels sometimes a little slow to build and a little bit unnecessary because it's not a very burst oriented. It's not a very good snowballing item. It's kind of like, well, the game's even. I'm not super far ahead, but I'm not super far behind. I need a bit of HP, a bit of survivability. Then I'll go Black Cleaver. But the great thing about Black Cleaver gives you CDR as well, which works really well with the rest of your items. And you have Transcendence, turns into Adaptive Force, that sort of thing. But actually, a lot of the time then, if I don't need that durability, which is quite often, if I'm quite far ahead, I'll just go straight into Last Whisper. And then I just, absolutely pop people. So that's basically take on things, and eventually you want to upgrade that. And just stock standard itemization there. Now, quickly for early recalls, guys, genuinely want to, if you can't afford your serrated dirk, then just sit on the long swords or tier 1 boots if you're versing a very skill shot oriented champion to help you dodge those skill shots, whether it's Syndra, Zoe, Xerath, etc. Now, for boots, as you've probably seen, if you watch Zed99 stream, he basically only goes only in boots of Lucidity for the extra CDR and the extra access to your summoner spells, which is a very viable way of playing Zed. But on the flip side, guys, you are incredibly squishy. You're very easy to lock down without mercs, especially when you're versing heavy CC. It's a very high skill cap way of playing Zed. For the average player, this is where I actually thought blindly. I went into blindly learning Zed and only building this, and actually bit me in the ass. If you're a beginner Zed player, this is not what I would recommend at all. If you're once you're all very competent on the champion and you're consistently pushing the pace of the game, go, utilizing your ult off cooldown, always looking for opportunities, potentially even synergizing very well with Umbleglaive, translating pressure, clearing vision, etc., then Ionian Boots of Lucidity are very good. But I would say, again, for the average Zed player, going Tabis or Mercs is very valuable. And there's actually a one trick in our server who's very, very good at Zed, and he basically never builds Ionian Boots. He only builds pretty much Mercs or Tabis. I've found myself having a bit more success recently, only building Mercs or Tabis as well. I found like this just makes me a little bit squishy. And then especially if you have Black Cleaver or Edge of Night combined with Mercs or Tabis, you actually are quite tanky, surprisingly tanky. So that's another little thing there, guys. Nothing too complex. Builds are pretty straightforward. Note, guys, if you do want to play the Conqueror build, I would watch Zed99 stream. I'm not going to talk about the Conqueror setup, because I'm not a big believer in it. So head over to his stream if you want to learn more about the Conqueror setup. Now, for the first combo we need to talk about a lot of combos, and I don't really talk about this on any other champion, but for Zed specifically, it's incredibly important to understand the combos, how they work, why they're important, when to use them in each situation, really break down all the micro of this champion, because if you don't understand the micro of this champion, how to optimize his kit, again, you're going to have no consistency in your game. So the first thing we need to talk about is the Zed W-E-Q Combo. This is literally, if you're trying to learn Zed, if you can master this combo, it's literally 80% of the champion. You're literally nearly there. You're that close to fully mastering the champion. This is, I would say, 80% of Zed. Now, you can be bad mechanically, you can have slow combos, it doesn't really matter. If you are great at this combo, it will compensate largely for the majority of it. So the amount of WEQ combos that you hit in lane is directly proportional to the likelihood of winning the game. It's literally this important. If you hit 3 of these combos in a row, you've basically won lane. Sometimes it's even 2. Sometimes, and for people like Zed99, he's so incredibly good at hitting this combo. That's how he wins his lane, or that's how he creates kill threat. That's how he can get away with his laning phases with Zed, because he's so accurate with his combos. So, as a result, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on how we can increase our chances of hitting this combo and what does it actually look like. So I've got a little clip here. Let's actually look at a few clips and then we'll go through the tips one by one. So let's actually look at a few of these videos, guys. So the first one, bang, let me actually just play this again. Whoops, let's just play this again here. So Zed, W-E, bang, next, closing the angle, bang, another one, beautiful. Look at that, hit 3 in a row. Look at this, I hit 3 in a row, and look at Vel'Koz's HP. Bang. If I miss all of these, the lane's completely different. Now, you may say, like, Curtis, calm down, like, it's not that big, it's just a few combos. It is so incredibly important. It changes the game. It literally changes the entire outlook of the game. So let's break down what are a few of these tips. How can you increase your chances of hitting the combo? Tip number 1, hold for around 0.5 seconds before throwing the Q, because the way the E works, so you do your W, I'll actually pause it on the frame where I do it. So I throw out my W-E like that. So I hit the W-E. It gets the slow. Now, if you rush it, if you insta-cast Q, which is all the noob Zeds do, they insta-cast Q, it's very unlikely that you're going to hit it because, again, you don't really know which way they're dodging, and you're not really utilizing the slow. So if you wait for around 0.5 seconds, you wait for because the slow is around 1.5 seconds, I believe. If you just wait for 0.5 seconds, you will see their path, you'll see the direction that they're going, and you'll be able to hit it. Now, so that's the first very important tip. Never, I would say very, very rarely instacast, do the combo. The only situations where you do the instacast W-E-Q combo is if they're literally CC'd or you know 100% they can't dodge. Maybe they're against a wall or something like that. Tip number 2, aim to the front right or front left-hand corner of their character, then force them into one direction. So look what I do here. Let's actually play this one out again. So look at this. So I throw the combo onto the bottom, like the kind of like diagonally on the, like at a 45-degree angle on his character. So let's say this is his character as a circle. I'm trying to do it like on this corner here. Then I path my character this way because look, he's not going to run into the shadow. He's only, when you put it on that corner, he's only going to run one direction. He's only roughly going to go this direction. So now by putting the shadow on one corner of the champion, of the character's model, then he can only really go in one direction. So you're kind of ushering him into one direction, so it's very easy to hit both the Qs. So let's look at it again. I do it in every single situation. So I walk up, put it on one corner, and then Q to that direction that he has to go. Look, every single example here. I'm trying to do it one corner, then I usher him onto one direction, then I throw the combo. And again, if you follow these steps, you will drastically increase your chances of hitting the combo. Step number 3, avoid clicking forward and taking free damage. Another noob mistake, which you'll probably make for the first 20 games of Zed, because you're focusing so much attention, directing so much attention onto doing the Q, then Eing, waiting for the slow, you're stepping in that direction and hitting the Q combo. You're gonna find yourself naturally walking forward because you're not thinking about where your character is in relation to this whole combo. So look at this. So I do that combo. Notice how I actually went back a little bit and repositioned because what you'll find is when you verse maybe a lot of these lower cooldown mages or champions that can dive back onto you, if you mindlessly just click forward, you'll find yourself running really close to their character and then they can just trade back onto you really easily. Because this combo has such a high range, you want to abuse that. I would say the example of this to compare is like Orianna Q. If you throw your Orianna Q, you want to stay at that max range because you don't want to go too far and which, get in their range so they can engage onto you. You want to make sure you're abusing that range. So I know it sounds a little bit weird, but you'll notice in all these combos, I try to avoid just autopilot running forward like that. That was bad. That was actually bad in terms of tip number 3. This was because this was one of the I would say one of the earlier games of me playing Zed. See how I keep running forward there? I keep running forward, so I overstep. You don't want to overstep like that, because then Vel'Koz could easily trade back. Now, that was a little bit better. I kind of like microed back and forth. I didn't really give Vel'Koz that entrance. Now, the last tip here, guys, is actually think of W as a damage ability in itself. A lot of people only direct attention onto the Q, they think of the Q accuracy, which is, I would say a lot of where your brain power should be, but you should also, to help you land the combo, you should also really be thinking about the W, the initial cast of W as a damage ability in itself. Because if you have that blasé mentality of, I'm just going to throw my W out, hopefully they hits, you're just not. And trust me, if I could go back in time when I first learnt Zed, I wish someone drilled me and said, Curtis, Stop missing combos, literally direct all your attention on this, and because this will change the game. This will change the way the game plays out as Zed. So take these tips, go into practice tools, start to really play around with this combo, and you'll find yourself taking extremely good trades in lane. Now we'll go over a few of the Zed Pre-6 combos. So there's not really many Pre-6 combos. Without ultimate, there's not many things you can do. Simply put, there's around 3 main combos. The first one is the El Clasico burst combo. I just made the names up because I don't really know what to call them. This is the W-E-Q W auto attack ignite. This is basically great to use versus opponents that are basically that maybe they disrespect your burst damage, or whether you're in a 2v2 and you know that the enemy's tunneling on the other person, so they don't really see you coming. So it's a really great way of bursting someone without really having to use flash. And this is what it looks like here. Come in, bang. I know he's focusing on the Silas, so I just get a really good combo there. I'll just play it one more time. Bang. Nothing too special, just the old Classico combo. And a lot of people disrespect the damage because they don't expect the passive auto. That's actually something I need to quickly talk about here, guys. This is something that is extremely underrated with Zed players. And the average, like I would say, lower elo Zed players. I believe it's called, Contempt the Week or whatever it's called. Zed's passive auto is probably one of the best passives in the entire game, and it's incredibly, people just disrespect it. The great thing about this combo is you're doing the W-E-Q combo, getting the slow, getting the Q, you're popping next to them, and a lot of the time you're going to be getting them below 50% HP here, in which your passive auto procs, and then you get the ignites, and it ticks down, you kill someone. So, very, very important combo to know and feel very comfortable with. Next one is a surprise combo. This is really great when you're versing opponents that use their main form of self-peel aggressively. So whether the LeBlanc uses their W aggressively, or Fizz E, or Syndra E, or even TF Gold card, and you want to, say, bait it out with your combo, with your W-E-Q combo, wait a little bit, then W Flash Ignite Auto. Let's actually take a look at what this looks like. And again, this is something that will come with time, but it's also a really handy thing to do. So here, I bait out the W, I run back, and then pop back, boom, flash, auto E, or E auto, sorry, ignite. This one was a bit sloppy, but the premise is still there. I was trying to go for a dive. I was going to flash auto there. I get out. It's the same premise. Basically, your intention. Now here, I saw TF pulled a red card, not a gold card, so I baited that out with my abilities here, forced him to panic. Now I run back, so he thinks he could just easily take a red card here. Then I'm like, okay, cool, you have no self-peel, bang, and I get a nice little kill. So it's basically, you're surprising people, catching them off guard by baiting out their main self-peel ability. Again, you're going to have to probably go back in this guide and really break it down and practice these in practice tool, but these are really important to understand. The next one's just the quick burst combo. This is usually good when you're coming from out of vision. They don't really see you coming. You're coming from fog of war. Or maybe they're, again, tunneled. Similar to the first combo, they're tunneled on dealing with someone else. This is the WWQ, Flash E auto here. And it's important, guys, that it's E auto because the E auto is basically one animation. It's not auto E. It's always E auto. It's faster than doing auto E. So again, same premise here. It's really, really quick. Great for assassinating people. Draven doesn't see the Zed, WW, boom, just one shot. So it's really good when coming, you don't have ultimate or even your pre-6, that sort of thing. Super solid. Now for the nitty-gritty Zed post-6 combos, where we're going to get into all the details. I wish when I was learning Zed, there was a guide like this outlining what the combos are, what are the trade-offs, when do you use them, what does it look like, that sort of thing. Because I literally was booming mentally. I still felt so bad at Zed even after the first 40 games because I just didn't understand this stuff. I wish this resource existed when I was learning Zed. Now, this is the standard combo. I just named it the standard combo. This is the W-E-Q, W-R-E auto, very bread and butter standard combo. So there's basically two situations or two or three situations that you want to use this combo. This is great when you're unseen, so you're in fog of war. Or the enemy has a lot of mobility in their kit, which will make it really hard to hit the shuriken after if you started the fight with R, sorry. So maybe you're versing a champion like Lucian, or you're versing a champion like Fizz, and you know they have E, they have dash, they have flashes or Ezreal, things like that. Generally, if possible, if you're out of vision, out of fog of war, you want to start the fight with the combo, then ult, E, get the passive off, and kill them that way. So it's a very cheesy, very standard combo. But note, guys, if the enemy has a lot of resistances and you don't burst them, they don't die for this combo, you're screwed. Because there's no way getting out. Because you're using your W in, and then you're using your R, and there's no escape. You're just completely screwed. And we're actually going to go over a game where this happens to me, and I get punished really, really hard for it, and I have to flash out because I miscalculated damage, or I think I missed the shurikens or something like that. So let's actually take a look at what this looks like. And this is my go-to, this is my go-to combo, when I am out of vision. So Syndra face checks me, boom, then I go E, and then I just finish off with the ultimate, Again, camping here. Boom. E, Q on the back end. Whatever. I think she was dead anyway. So that's basically the main. I'll look at that one more time. Again, full burst combo. Rounded out with R. I don't even need to ignite there. It was a really simple kill. Same process here. So again, I'd probably go over this. Practice this in practice tool. Very stock standard combo. Make sure they're in kill threat range though, or you're completely screwed. Next one is the triple shuriken combo for max damage. So this is the absolute max damage combo. This is where you want to be starting the fight with R rather than starting it with the W-E-Q combo. Generally, it synergizes very well with Youmuu's to get you in range to even start the fight with R. It's really good with champions that have no flash or low mobility because they can't really dodge your shurikens. It's generally the go-to all-in combo within the early to mid game. You generally don't do this combo in like mid to late game because again, people are too it's too hard to stay in the fight for that long, or they're not really going to be in a position for you to start the fight with R. It's quite hard. We'll talk about a combo that you should be doing to mid to late game. And again, because this is the max damage combo, it can be quite can be quite hard for people to learn. So it is worth the time investment in practice tool. And if you don't have the Q shuriken accuracy, you're not going to be able to pull off this combo. So again, put in the time in practice tool to learn this one. Let's see what this one actually looks like. So here, I was pretending to go for a roam. I turn back onto the Syndra, W away after, triple shuriken, bang, pop back, kill. It's a 100-0 combo here, as you can see. W, triple shuriken, one shot. That was a bit overkill there. I think I did not need to go there hand, but it's the same premise. So that's what it basically looks like here. We actually just break down this first one, or the second one, sorry. We'll break down the second one here. So you want to start the fight with R, you W to one direction, and then you Q, try and land the Q, and then you basically just pop them from 100 to 0. It's like a really great 100 to 0 combo. So any champion that doesn't have flash, this is generally maybe you can survive the damage in the meantime. It's a really, really solid combo. Again, try it in practice tool. Third one, the dodge combo. So this one is a little bit advanced. I wouldn't recommend doing this combo if you are maybe doing the first 30 or 40, maybe at least you need to play at least 30 to 40 games of Zed before you could reliably use this one. But it's great for versing any champion that has a very annoying form of dodgeable hard CC. So champions like Cassio R, Vel'Koz E, Zoe E, things like that. This is where you're doing W to one direction, then you start the fight with R, you E while you're R'ing, then pop to your W, and then Q back from your initial clone. Let's just actually see what it looks like here. Now, this example, I don't really dodge anything, but the premise is still there. Because here I actually didn't think that, I forgot that he actually already used, his E, but you can actually see the premise here. So I W to one side to hopefully potentially dodge any skill shot. This would be really good if I'm versing something like a Cassio with her ultimate, or actually, Cassio's ultimate's kind of hard because she can always stun if she really wants to, but something like, even like a Zoe bubble, I can instantly pop back. Now, you may ask, why? We'll play it one more time. So W to the side, then I pop back to that W, and then I can land the triple shuriken from here. And then use one shot. Now, you may ask, Curtis, why can't you just do the same thing but pop back to your R? Now, the difference is, the reason this is such an important combo is because there's actually a delay. Now, if I just started this fight with R, I can't instantly pop back to my R. There's actually a delay for like, I don't know, like 0.5 seconds or whatever it is. There's actually a delay. You can't pop back to your R. But if you put your W out before and then you R, you can literally insta proc and go back to your W. So it's actually way quicker than going straight back to your R. So if you're versed, you need to dodge something really immediately. This is a very important combo to do. And a lot of the time when you're doing dives and things like that, it can be super nice. Like if you're just going for a dive, you put your W away from you, you do your full combo, and then you pop back out to your W. Again, this is quite advanced, but it is something that you might want to experiment with when you start to get a little bit more competency around Zed's combos. Now, there's actually 2 more combos. The next one's the delayed combo. Now, this one's great for mid game, and the great thing about this one is that when there's any scrappy mid to late game team fight or chaotic skirmish, it's really effective because it basically confuses the enemy. They don't know when you're going to pop back, and it's great because you actually get to wait for your cooldowns. Yeah, so it's basically really effective because it's so hard to keep track of. So this one, you're doing the full combo here, the W-E-Q combo, then you're going in with your W to get in range to R, then again you do another E, and then Q on the back end, and then pop back out with the R. So let's actually take a look what this looks like in team fights or in skirmishes. So here it looks like a bit of a skirmish. Do my full combo onto the Draven, force Draven to flash, wait for my cooldowns to come back up, pop back out, flash, and he just gets one shot anyway. Even though I missed my Q. Here, doing the same combo, W-E-Q, pop back, flash out here, land my Q on the back end, pop, dead. So it's really great for, and this one's a perfect example here. It's a team fight, playing front to back here. Now I wait for the Aphelios to forget where my shadow is, then I just pop back when all the other threats go in, boom, EQ, pop back, dead. So it's a really solid combo in these scrappy skirmishes because the enemy AD carry can't keep track of where your shadows are. Really important. And the great thing about it, by the time you're doing this combo, look, I have my Youmu's and my Duskblade. I basically one-shot. I don't even need to land my second Q. I just need to land the E. The great thing, I wait for my E to come back up, then I W, R-E, bang, auto, do the E auto, and then pop back, land the Q. There's no counterplay. If you do it really well, there's basically no counterplay to one-shotting the enemy AD carry. And most AD carries in the elos that you're going to play are not going to keep track of the ZW as well. They're just going to completely forget about it. So it's a really important combo to do in mid-game skirmishing. Now, this is the combo that I actually named after the one trick that we have in Oceania. He's probably the best Zed that we have in Oce. His name's Pardo. I'll actually link his stream in the description below. This one, again, is what, according to him, and I've actually realized as well, it is probably the best combo for mid to late game that you can possibly do. Now, his theory is that he basically uses his combo 95% of the time as soon as the game gets past like 25 minutes. So it actually doesn't look sexy at all. It doesn't look fancy. It's very simple. But again, I would recommend you guys to go into practice tool, test it, do the combo, get very comfortable with it, because when it comes time to execute, you got to be willing to execute it and not mess it up. The great thing about this one is that it's like not overkilling the enemy. It's just the perfect amount of damage. And it's great for just making a pick before the fight actually starts. So let's actually take a look what this looks like. But here, just quickly, you WW, Q, RE, auto ignite, and then pop back to your R. It's very simple. I've got a little example here I did in solo queue, just to show you the strength of it and how easy it is to execute. I run it some with my Youmu's. I know he's in a straight direction. WWQ, E auto, and they just pop. Like you do this combo on an enemy AD carry in basically around 25 minutes onwards in the game, you will one-shot them. You can only really do this combo when you know you're going to hit that Q. So you WW, you land the Q there, because it's an isolated Q as well. Then you pop, and then you do the E auto, and then you just pop back to your R, they're dead. I don't even need to ignite there, he's just dead. And again, ideally, and this is great, because generally you do this before a fight starts. You do it before a team fight starts. So you're coming in from the side, or you've caught someone off in rotation, or you're hiding out at fog of war, that sort of thing. Really important combo to do. So if there's one mid-game combo that you're going to do, guys, this is probably one that I would recommend learning. And it's very effective. So now I just want to quickly share with you some tips for all-inning, whether it's an early game, mid-game, or late game. Now, the first one here, guys, is try and wait for the enemy to use their CC abilities. So let's just say, hypothetically, you're versing a Zoe mid. Now, all the way up to, I would say, around Master or Grandmaster, a lot of the Zoes they'll eventually use their E aggressively. They'll use their bubble to look for a kill, to set up a gank, or for whatever reason, they'll just use their E, because they don't understand, most people who verse that don't understand that holding their key form of self-peel or CC is basically the main way to counter Zed. Because a lot of the time, you're just poking them with their W-E-Q combo, and they're getting super, super frustrated, so they're just going to use the E aggressively. And as soon as they do that, that's your window to go in. Go in for a kill, go in for an all-in, that sort of thing. Now, or if you don't want to do that, you don't want to wait for them, maybe they're holding onto it for a very long time. Since the W changes to Zed, since how fast the W is, it's so much faster than it used to be. You can actually dodge so many projectiles with the W. You can just W to the side, whether it's a Syndra QE combo, you can quickly dodge it. Whether it's a Shen taunt, whatever it is, you can dodge it incredibly quickly with this combo, as long as you're mashing your buttons very, very fast. That's one of the luxuries given the buff. Or you can use your Youmu's, get in range really, really close to the enemy, and then wait for them to use their key ability, then dodge it with the R. So you can actually dodge the Zoe bubble with your R. You can dodge the Syndra ultimate, the Orianna ultimate with your R, just like you would with Fizz E. Very self-explanatory, but again, not many people do it as well. It's all about understanding all the small details, guys. So number 2, guys, you need to pay attention to exhaust, flashes, and items. Now, this is so incredibly important, and this is not something I did when I was playing my first 30, 40 games of Zed, and it just literally changes the game. What you'll find out, eventually what you'll realize is through painful experiences, you're going to be going in with your ultimate, you're ready for this crazy dragon fight, and you'll see the enemy AD carry has a stopwatch. Okay, it's not GG. You can still play around it. Maybe you have to do your combo differently. Maybe you have to poke with your W-E-Q combo. Maybe you have to go on another target. There are differing ways to play the fights as long as you are understanding which targets. Do they have stopwatches? Do they have Zhonya's? Do they have PDs? What do they have that can disrupt your all-in ability? Because if you don't do it, you're going to find yourself, you're going to be ready to go, you're really fed, you go in on the enemy AD carry, and then you just give a shutdown, you screw up because they have stopwatch, or they have exhaust, or they have flash when you thought they didn't have flash, and you're just screwed. Okay, you can throw the game that easily with Zed. Very, very important. And just watch Zed99. Literally go to his stream and you'll see how obsessed he is with flashes. Because if he sees a no flash target, what does that mean for Zed? It means that it's way, way easier to hit your Qs. And what does hitting Qs mean? It means you get more damage on your ultimate, which means more kills, which means more snowballing, etc., etc. And the last point here, I cannot stress this enough, is you need to spend a disproportionate amount of time when heading into a game to identify key threats onto you. Now, what I mean by this is when I go into a game, the first thing I do, I press tab, and I literally just think to myself, what are the specific abilities that screw me in the ass right now? Okay, is it Soraka Silence? Is it Nautilus Hook? Is it Maokai W? Is it Shen Ult? Is it Zoe Bubble? What is it specifically that I need to play around? I need to adapt my gameplay. I need to come in from a different angle. I need to wait for them to use it, because if you don't assess these things, you go into a skirmish and you didn't wait for the Nautilus to hook, then as soon as you ult in, you're going to get Nautilus Hook into an auto attack, into an ultimate, and you're just screwed. You die. You're useless. Go next. So very, very important. We'll talk about that later. The next one here is you need to identify the amount of armor early on to adapt your build. And we spoke about that in the build section. If you see the enemy stacking armor really early on in the game, maybe you're versing quite a few tanks, then you need to build Last Whisper second item. Very important. Sometimes that's the case. Again, but if you don't do that, you find yourself building double lethality against a full armor stacking team. That item is basically going to be rendered useless. Very important. Next one, play patient. Okay, the enemy will, a lot of the time, get impatient, use their key self-peel ability to wave clear or go for an aggressive trade, just like I said before. So, and the reason this is important, guys, and this is what screwed me as well a lot, is where I get really impatient, and instead of waiting for them to slowly get whittled down by my W-E-Q combo, or instead of waiting for them to use their key self-peel ability, I will go in this very frustrated state of mind, go for this all-in kill with my flash, ignite, and I don't get the kill, because I'm like, well, they have their self-peel ability, they CC'd me, and I couldn't get that Q off, couldn't get that extra auto attack off, and I waste my full combo. Now, if you use your first R and ignite the game and you don't get a kill, man, it's so painful. It will literally insanely decrease the chances of you winning that game. So you got to be very patient. A lot of the time, just be patient. And that's my philosophy on Zed, is you don't feel the need to rush things and just go for some crazy kills. Like, you can play Zed a lot of the time like this very controlled poke mage, because your W-E-Q combo is so OP, you have so much mobility, you're so hard to gank. Just chill, whittle down the enemy, eventually they will get impatient, they will get frustrated, and the window will present itself. Trust me. Okay, very, very important. And lastly, guys, I wish someone told this to me when I was first picking up Zed. don't rush your abilities. The first thing I did when, again, my first 30, 40 games of Zed, I was always just rushing to hit on a Q. I was like, if I go in, I got a Q straight away. I got to pop back. I got to do it all so quickly. When you actually watch the best Zed players, a lot of the time they do things relatively, they don't rush their buttons. If they're going in with a combo, they'll wait to dodge an ability with the W or with the R. They won't just use R, or they'll wait for the enemy to blow their self-peel ability or use their mobility skill, like whether it's Lucian E or Ezreal E, then Q, because then they guarantee that they're going to hit the Q. So it's all the little details. Don't rush. Relax when you're doing your combos. Take your time. Don't just smash your keyboard. Don't just smash your head on the keyboard. Very important tip now. So what we're going to do is break down the way I interpret the matchups for Zed. Now, the A tier being the best ones and the D tier being the worst ones. So let's actually start with the A tier. These, in my opinion, are really easy, I'd say the reason they're easy, guys, is because they're so immobile. All these champions, you just get absolutely railed by your W-E-Q combo. They have a low base armor, very easy to just destroy with poke. I'm not even talking like level 6. I'm just talking levels 1 to 5. You just dominate these champions. B tier, still favorable, but can be a little bit tricky if you don't understand the matchups. And remember, guys, this is just all my interpretation at a somewhat high elo level. Some of these matchups may be harder for you in lower elo because you got to really understand how to play the matchups, but this is just my interpretation. Like Vlad, for example. I think Vlad is actually, it's quite an easy matchup for Zed. I actually versed Vlad not long ago, and it felt quite easy because he has no lockdown, he has no CC, he can't set up ganks onto you. You can basically freely always poke with W-E-Q combo, or he has to give pressure and you can just roam freely because his wave clear is so poor as well. It feels like you just have yes, if you play safe and scale, you will get outscaled, but a lot of the time you're going to have so much freedom to do things in the game, and I personally like that as Zed. Then there's the 50-50 matchups. Some of these actually will be favorable for you if you know how to play them. For example, LeBlanc and Fizz, I believe they could be B tier if you really know how to play them. C tier, unfavorable. I really don't like, especially some of these matchups. They would nearly be D tier for me. Like Echo and Katarina, I hate versing a Zed because if the Katarina knows how to dodge your combo with her Shampoo, it's very annoying. If the Echo knows to like E forward when you do your combo and you don't know how to do the proper W-E-Q combo, you know what I was talking about in terms of you overstep and then you get in the Echo's E range and then you just lose the trade anyway. That can be really tricky. Zoe as well can be really annoying. But the thing with Zoe, I would say up until Grandmaster level, Zed will dominate Zoe. But if you watch Zed99, he gets dumpstered by Zoe basically every game. It's like one of the hardest matchups in high elo if you're versing a very good Zoe. And then lastly, again, Lissandra is interesting because Lissandra, again, in every, I would say all the way up until like Master tier level is easy. It's actually quite an easy matchup. But if you verse the really good Lissandras, and in my server we have some very good high elo Lissandras, they are so annoying to verse and incredibly annoying to verse. And things like Pantheon as well. I find like Pantheon is one of the hardest counters to Zed because his E cooldown is actually lower than your W cooldown. So he can technically use his E to block the damage of your W every single time if he wants to. He can block your ultimate damage, all these things. It's incredibly annoying. Cled's also annoying as well. You want to avoid these matchups at all costs, essentially, those D tier ones. So if you have any questions for these matchups, you hit me up in the Discord or in the comments below. Now, this is something, actually quickly, talking about my bans, I actually ban Lissandra quite often, but you're not going to see much Lissandra in your elo. So if that's the case, then this is where these other champions come into play. So a lot of the time, my other two bans are actually Ezreal and Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix is so annoying because Kha'Zix, what do we know about Zed? Zed's actually a very squishy champion for a very long time. Youmuu's Duskblade, you have basically no HP, no resistances. You're very, very squishy. And what do we know about Kha'Zix? Kha'Zix has so many forms of gap closer. The ultimate's a gap closer, the jump's a gap closer, the W has a slow, they take Nimbus Cloak and Chilling Smite. You can't escape a Kha'Zix. It's incredibly hard to hit your shurikens on an invisible target. Yes, you could theoretically kill him, but you can never hit your shurikens. So if the Kha'Zix is good, you just get absolutely dominated. You can get solo killed in the side lane really easily. You can get soloed in mid lane whenever you use your W aggressively, especially once he has Warrior. And if you die once to a Kha'Zix, it's game over. So I hate Kha'Zix personally. Ezreal is a pain in the ass. The reason Ezreal's a pain in the ass is, what do we know about Zed? Zed theoretically should be the 80 carry counter, right? This is where, if you should just delete 80 carries. But Ezreal's such a bullshit champion. You build Iceborne, you build Death Dance, you have 2 forms of mobility with your flash and your E, so it's incredibly hard to hit. Shurikens onto is very hard to burst, so I hate versing this champion. And actually we're going to go over a VOD today where I verse an Ezreal, and it just does my head in. A lot of the time I ban Ezreal, but again, if Ezreal's not, I guess if that champion's not popular in your elo, then I wouldn't worry about it. Then you need to go back to the tier list and figure out what you struggle with the most. So for me personally, these two are a lot. And as you can see, there's a lot of supports and a lot of top laners that absolutely screw Zed. The most notable one here is actually Rakan and Lulu. They are ridiculously hard to verse because Polymorph is like a point and click. It's basically a stun. It's like a point and click stun essentially. Rakan is ridiculous as well because the R, if Rakan sits on the enemy 80 carry, you're never going to burst the enemy 80 carry. Thresh, Soraka, Nautilus, again, all really important. So a lot of the time when I'm versing these sorts of champions, I try to avoid them, or I wait for them to use their ability, or I come in from an angle out of fog or war that they can't react to my damage. That sort of thing. Or I do the dodge combo where I have my W out and then I R in, do my combo, then W out or whatever. There's ways to play around it. And then top laners, Fiora, you can pretty much never beat. Set's really annoying because as soon as you ult in, he can just ult you back into the team. Again, point and click stun through Maokai, Poppy for obvious reasons with the W, and Shen for obvious reasons with the ultimate. The amount of games that I've lost because versing a Shen ultimate has ruined my combo. I don't get the kill and then the game booms. So when I verse Shen, a lot of the time I actually like to play towards the Shen and actually punish the Shen, and I actually do that in one of these games I'll show you. And then the way I like to do it sometimes is bait out the ultimate. No, I'm not going to get the kill, but then my top laner gets really far ahead. That's like sometimes the way I like to play around that. So now for my take on Zed's identity. The way I like to view Zed is he's very different to other assassins. He's more of like a solo kill assassin. He's less to do with roaming in my opinion, and he's the skirmish king. Now, there are some assassins in the game, like Talon, like Kiana, like Pyke, like Fizz, that are very good at just roaming. They can ditch waves, they don't really need to have perfect CS. They can just ditch waves, roam, get kills, snowball that way. But Zed is a little different in my opinion. Zed is more like... Zed, in my opinion, is roaming is... Okay, you can play that way of Zed, but I feel like it's like, why do that? Why do that when you could just dominate your opponent in lane? You can poke them down with WEQs. You can basically solo kill any opponent. You can be incredibly farm. Now, the way a lot of the time you watch Zed99, you watch a lot of the good Zed players, they don't go for risky dives unless, they have to do something crazy to win the game. But a lot of the time they farm incredibly well. They've averaged like at least 8 CS per minute. Then what they do, they get to their Yomus really, really early. Then they continue to farm. They don't force anything. Maybe they only have 1 kill. Sometimes Zed99 is actually on 0-0. He's like 0-0-1, but he's so incredibly farmed. Once he gets to his Duskblade and his Yomus, he's so strong at this point that the enemy AD carry cannot play the game. Any squishy cannot play the game anymore once you get to those 2 items. So a lot of the time, because it's a misconception that Zed gets outscaled, and we'll talk about that later, but Zed doesn't necessarily get outscaled. Zed will always scale if you understand how to play the champion, because he has such a high skill cap. If you're a bad Zed, then he doesn't scale, but if you're a good Zed, he basically always scales relatively well. So my theory is that I try not to roam too much. And when I first started playing Zed, I roamed a ridiculous amount. I just died. My CS went to shit. And then I just didn't have threat on the enemy AD carry anymore. And then I was just a useless champion. So I really like to play a much more calculated, slower game with Zed. And Zed is all about maximizing, like I said this before, it's all about maximizing all the small micro details in order to maximize skirmish effectiveness. Like, the way I interpret Zed is like, you gotta juice, like, have your lemon or an orange, like, you gotta juice the kit. You gotta squeeze all the potential max damage out of this kit in order to maximize its effectiveness in skirmishes, because when there's that 2v2 skirmish in the river or scrappy 3v3, Zed can absolutely pop off. That's why you really gotta know all those combos. And I view his laning, he's more of a poke mage rather than a traditional assassin. There's no assassin in the game that's actually similar to Zed, and that's why maybe a lot of people like playing Zed, because he's very... yeah, he's got a very pleasant or enjoyable laning phase. And the great thing about it, even when you are in a crappy matchup, and actually we're going to go over Vod where I'm versing a Lucian mid with exhaust, so it's a really hard matchup, I can sit back, relax, I can poke with my W-E-Q combo, I can even just CS with Qs, and when I get pushed under tower, I can CS really well, which a lot of mages don't have that luxury because their auto attacks do no damage. But because of Zed's passive, Contempt the Weak or whatever it's called, you do so much damage to minions below 50% HP, so it's really easy to just see us on the tower as well. So it's very easy to play passive. Great within multi-threat compositions. The reason I talk about this one in a lot of assassin guides is that any dive champion that wants to get onto the enemy squishies or the enemy backline, they're great with other threatening champions. That's why if you have like a Fizz and you have a Camille on your team, it's really good. Or you have a Zed, but you've also got an Evelyn on the team. There's so many things for them to worry about. So if one of you go in, or say my Eve goes in first, or my Camille goes in first, or my Set goes in first, they blow all their self-peel, and then I can come in from the other direction and clean up. Vice versa. So it's very important, and that's why I don't like being the sole threat in a comp. With Zed, I like to have other damage sources in my composition. For obvious reasons, loves AP, hates hard CC and tanky compositions, loves versing immobile squishies because we know the squishier the opponent is, it's easy to build lethality, you can get those one-shots off, and the less mobile the opponent, the easier it is to hit Qs, which means more damage, etc. And you must value farm high. You cannot be behind the curve. If you screw up your farm and you have a really crappy farm, you're going to have no threat. You're going to find it hard to be impactful in mid to late game. Loves fast-paced, scrappy games, but you can adapt and play slow. You can play a slow game equally as effective as a fast game. And loves the side lane. We'll talk about that later. Extra Zed tips, guys. So, always try and use W coming out of base to save time and generate tempo. So let's just say hypothetically you're like 50% HP. You can actually walk to the edge of the fountain and then W out here and then, you know, heal here. And then as you get to like full HP, then you can pop back. Your W actually is, you know, still reduces its cooldown as it's before you've even popped to it as well. So not only are you saving time by getting out of base faster, but also you're reducing the cooldown of your W because you've already used it, because you want it up ideally by the time you get back to lane. What you can also do as well, let's just say this is the base, and let's just say you need you need a bit more gold for an extra item. Let's say you only need maybe an extra 15 gold. You can actually walk all the way out here, W really far away while you're waiting for gold, and by the time you get back here, you insta-buy your item, then you pop all the way there. So again, that's another little thing you can do to save time coming out of base and generate tempo. Very important. Shadow abilities give energy back on hit. So a lot of people don't know this. If you W onto a target, like a champion or whatever, or even on minions as well, and then you E, whatever this clone hits, whether it's a Q off of it or an E, it actually gives energy back. So if you're in a team fight and you get an AoE W, say that there's like two champions here and here, and you W on them, and you hit E on both of them, you get a lot of energy back. Something that some people don't really know about. And also, people don't know that Zed's E reduces Living Shadow's cooldown by 2, which is Zed's W, by 2 seconds per champion hit. So again, if you're in a team fight and there's two people next to each other and you W and then you E here, it actually reduces by each target, each E hit. So that would be 4 seconds shaved off of your W cooldown. And that's why in team fights, if you AoE a lot of people, your W can come off cooldown incredibly quickly. Again, something that you'll probably make use of as you get a bit more confident with Zed. Now, this is again something that not many people know about, is that Dustblade cooldown, you actually utilize the Dustblade cooldown to see if you're spotted by a ward. So if you buy Dustblade and you're just sitting in a bush, what you'll see, if you look on like above, let's just say these are your abilities. Let's actually get rid of this. If these are your abilities here, and the little Dustblade icon will come here, if this will actually go on cooldown, I believe, or is it here in your items here will go on cooldown, you actually see it like tick, that means you're spotted by a ward. And if it doesn't go on cooldown, then it means you're not spotted by a ward. So it's really something you can go and practice to and look at yourself. It's really good to see if you don't have Sweeper, you don't have Umbral Glaive, you can actually see if you're sitting on a ward or not, to know if they're setting up a kill on you or they don't know where you are, and you can make a pick on someone. So very, very important, and especially since it's such an integral part of Zed's identity, is making those picks out of vision. It can be a nice little tip. Never look to trade 1-for-1. That's actually something I had to learn the hard way. A lot of games I played when I first started playing Zed, I was always looking to trade 1-for-1. it never leads to anything good, because then you miss CS, you get behind an XP, your threat goes down and down and down. You don't need to trade kills. You can farm effectively without it. Never look to do that. And for extra combos and skirmish improvement and optimization, which you will need to do inevitably as you get better at Zed, I would check out 2 channels. I'll check out Zed99. I believe he has a YouTube and a Twitch. And there's another YouTuber who has some really great Zed stuff. His name's Fiddle Zahar. On YouTube him if you want to just improve your combos over time as you get heading towards mastery on the champion. Now I'm just going to show you 2 quick creative Zed tips that I found to be really useful in terms of replicating getting ahead. Now, what do we know about Zed's early laning? We know that a lot of the time versus any basically immobile mage, you should be able to chunk them out as long as you're hitting a lot of those W-E-Q combos using the tips that I mentioned earlier on in the video, holding, waiting for the slow, ushering them onto one side, etc, etc. Now, what will happen if you hit a lot of W-E-Q combos? Most likely, you'll be pushing them out of lane, you'll be denying them CS under tower, you yourself will be getting very efficient recalls, in which you will get an XP lead. Now, what does that mean? An XP lead will mean most likely you will hit 6 before they will hit level 6. And if that's the case, a lot of the time you can actually look for cheesy level 6 kills before they even know that because they're not, a lot of the time, unless you're playing in Grandmaster Challenger level, they're not going to be expecting, oh, Zed's going to hit level 6 soon, so I need to play respectfully. So you can get a lot of cheesy solo kills. So here, I knew that I was hitting level 6 soon. One more auto attack, bang, I have my W already deep. I wait for Zillion to walk up too far, and then I get a very cheesy kill. Now again, I didn't play this skirmish, this all-in very well, but it's just the premise here. This is one of the earlier Zed games that I played. I think it was around like my 15th game, but I quickly realized that this was something that is very replicable, especially as you get better at hitting those W-E-Q combos. Now, the next one is something that you can do when escaping. So let's just say you're getting chased by someone. You can actually W-E-Q backwards, and it's a very good escape combo like this. Like that, and you can get a really nice little trade there. Now, this is also good for when you're trying to damage them under tower. So maybe they're trading or CSing under tower. You can actually walk up really aggressively, W-E-Q, and because it's so fast, a lot of the time you use W behind you, EQ auto or whatever. The tower hit actually won't go through if you do your W fast enough. So that's actually something that, because of the W changes, you can also do as well. So it's a really nice little trick that you can do when looking for extra trades. Now, I just want to quickly cover how to efficiently and effectively wave clear with Zed. Now, when I initially was doing this guide, I was thinking, Curtis, surely you wouldn't need to put this into the guide. But after watching quite a few lower elo Zed players, I was concerned at the amount of them that really didn't know how to effectively and efficiently wave clear with Zed. So what I did, I went ahead and went to Zed99 stream and took 2 clips to show you the 2 differing situations you'll find yourself in and how to effectively wave clear. The first example that I'll show you is when the creeps are already bunched up together. So maybe you've come back to lane late and they've already bunched up together. And the second example is when he's already in lane and they're coming out of base in a straight line, in which you can just combo straight through them. So let's actually look at how he does it. You wait for them to settle here. W-E's the backline, then Q's towards the melees, sits in the middle of them, and then E's through. Now, in this example, when it's in a straight line, he W-E-Q's through the entirety of it, then he walks up into the middle of them to get max damage in his E onto all of them, and then continues to Q through all of the range, and then just, auto them down with the rest of them. So there's the 2 biggest mistakes I see is not utilizing your E on the maximum amount of minions, and the main problem that I see is that people are using abilities on the wave when they really don't need to. Because what do we know about Zed? Zed is incredibly focused and reliant on his W ability. And W ability, we don't really max it, we max it last, and it has the highest cooldown. It's one of the highest cooldown abilities. So, if you don't need to use your W-E-Q combo on the wave, and maybe it takes an extra 3 or 4 seconds, a lot of the time, I would just not use it. Because what do we do? If we have it, then maybe we can take an aggressive trade. If a skirmish breaks out, we can get there faster, or we can hold it and actually take a all-in combo that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. It basically opens up your opportunities as a champion. And a big misconception is that you need to wave clear as fast as possible. Oh my god, they can roam. A lot of the time, a lot of mages reverse, it doesn't matter if it takes an extra 2 or 3 seconds to actually wave clear without using your W, because then if you use your W, then you're going to have to probably give pressure for an extra 15 seconds while your W is coming off cooldown, because you can't contest without your W at all. Or Zeds, that will just continually use Q on the wave wave and not use it on the enemy, and then the enemy's just sitting there on full HP, and it's just a nightmare. So please, if you can auto attack or can use your E and auto attacks only for wave clear, please do that, or Q when the enemy's not there, because that's going to really increase your options for poking on the enemy. Now for mid-game and team fighting with Zed, we're probably going to cover this more in detail using examples with when we get to the video portion of this guide. But just a few quick tips here, guys, that you can refer back to increase your likelihood of translating leads mid to late game team fighting. The first one, never make your positioning obvious. You must prioritize coming in from the side at all times. Okay, and what I mean by this, because, and I say this about all assassins, you never want to be coming in front to back. That it's, say you're playing an AD carry, for example, and then you see you're in mid lane right now, and you're thinking, okay, the only person who can kill me right now is a Zed. Now, if you see the Zed and the Zed sitting on vision in the middle of the lane, you're like, cool, chill. Your support knows exactly where to direct his attention. It's super easy. It's really easy to peel. It's really easy for me to DPS because I know where the Zed is. I don't need to be scared. But put yourself in the Ash's position if he doesn't know where Zed is. And then maybe he does know where Zed is, but he knows he's off on the side. What's that going to do? Well, Ash is going to be scared to walk up and aggressively DPS, knowing that Zed can just flank from the side, so he has to hold abilities or maybe not posture as aggressively. Or she doesn't know at all, in which Zed can come in from the side, get straight backline access, and just demolish that Ash, or Zed can just demolish that Ash. So it's incredibly important, just for threat's sake, that you always try to value coming in from the flank or coming in from the side. Ideally, coming in from the side. So if it's a dragon fight, you want to be coming in from the top down, and I'll show this in the videos later on, but it's very important. And as a concept that not many people talk about, threat itself can prevent the enemy from DPSing. A lot of the time, if I'm versing in a mobile mid-mage, the Orianna has to like keep the ball off to the side because she's so scared. And the Orianna's not using abilities in the front to back fight because she's shit scared that I'm just going to come and, you know, pump her from a different angle. So threat can actually allow your team to win the 4v4. Very important. Number 2, always aim to make a pick or force the fight into a 4v5 scenario as much as you can, because ideally it's not a straight front to back 5v5. Sometimes they happen and you just got to deal with it, but most of the time you want to be either picking someone off on the side, picking someone else before the fight starts, or just making it a 4v5 after killing someone. This is where you want to be using that Pardo combo. Refer back to the video, the Pardo combo, getting that pick into mid to late game, 25 minutes onwards. You ideally want to avoid those straight front to back 5v5s, because then it's, you know, then that's where the control mage can kind of outperform you in those team fights. Third one, if you do have a 5v5, I highly recommend using the delayed combo or the dodging combo or the Pardo combo. Pardo combo is usually better for picks, but in straight team fights, the delayed combo is probably better because it's a little bit more chaotic. It's very unlikely in these mid to late game team fights that you're going to have the time and space to use the triple shuriken combo, because then you're going to have to be running in forward with Yomus and maybe you're going to get CC'd, that sort of thing. So it's very unlikely that you'll be using that combo. And plus it's overkill. At that point in time, you don't need that much damage. Like your combo can just mostly pop most squishies without hitting all 3 of the shurikens. Number 4. And I said this before, constantly update yourself on itemization, key self-peel abilities, and summoners. I won't go on about that. 5, side lanes are your best friend. If you are strong, don't necessarily always split though. One of the big misconceptions, I actually learned this from Zed99 as well, is that Zed is just a split push champion. And Zed99, I was watching his stream, he was saying as well, he says he hates 1-3-1. He thinks 1-3-1ing is like, it's just, it's like a bait. It's like a game-losing play. If you're strong, you just shove the wave and threaten and try and always push and roam. You don't necessarily sit in the side. And yes, there was actually a buff a few patches ago that increased Zed's base attack speed, so he can actually shred towers quite well. But in saying that, it's very rare that I find myself in a position where I'm literally splitting down towers. And I will go over this more with examples, but I just find myself always wanting to play the 4-1, where I'm on the 1, but I don't sit in the 1. I try to like push and roam, like deny CS, but I'm ready for the fight because I don't have TP. I don't want to come in late to the fight. Like I want to come in relatively as the fight's just starting. Or 6, wait for others to go in first to make them use self-peel abilities, and that's how we spoke about multi-threat compositions. Ideally, I don't want to be starting the fight. Ideally, the fight's just starting, or someone else has started the fight, they've blown their first rotation of abilities, then I go in. Now, I want to quickly talk about Zed's item journey. I do this in all my guides, but I think it's very important for Zed. Now, as we can see on the left-hand side here, you're not really weak, but you're not really strong. Your first somewhat decent spike is your Serrated Dirk. Then, as you build towards Yomu's, if you have to base on Caulfield's Hammer, then it can feel really bad. Ideally, you want to be staying in lane off this item straight into Yomu's. And even then, as you get your Yomu's, you're not really God tier strong. That doesn't really come into play until you get your Dust Blades. You're relatively strong, then you turn God mode strong if you farm really well and get these items. Now, and very important to note, guys, if you get behind the curve, whether you die early, you miss a bunch of CS, or for whatever reason you get behind early, you're basically never going to be strong again. Like, I learned the hard way, is that Zed is a champion that's like feast or famine. You either farm very patiently, you're very calculated, you play a very slow, calculated aggression game, you're farming very well, you're on the curve, or maybe you get a solo kill, that sort of thing, in which you're going to be ridiculously strong, or you're basically going to be rendered useless because you've died early, and then they start building Seekers, they start building Zhonya's, you can't one-shot people anymore, and then you start getting zoned from CS, your CS goes further and further down, and then you turn into a piece of poo. So it's very important that you don't have the mentality where it's like, I gotta do some crazy, I gotta be like Zed99 to do some crazy kills in the early get us. You don't have to do that. It's okay if if an opportunity doesn't present itself. Maybe you just get pressure, but you farm really well. You will turn into a god tier strong champion by not forcing, just being on the clock in terms of CS. So very important, guys, you understand the downside or the risk of going for that crazy play and screwing up and getting really far behind. This is also why I don't like those crazy roams and don't like playing like a Kiana or like a Fizz or a Talon, because I'm not willing to miss 2 waves mid for a 50-50 roam. I don't want to do that. I know I can win the game doing a more calculated way of playing the game. So now I just want to quickly talk about the biggest mistakes and biggest misconceptions. I'll try and speed this up, guys. First biggest one, guys, and I wish people said this to me when I was first playing this champion, is that I always felt like I had to unnecessarily like push the pace of the game. Zed does not get outscaled. It's a big misconception. You only get outscaled if you don't know how to do damage on Zed. That's very important. Failing to identify key self-peel abilities. We spoke about that before. Rushing Qs and combos. I did that for the first 40 games of Zed. I just rushed Qs and combos. Go, go, go. Gotta hit my Q instantly. Just relax. Throw your W out. Pop back to my arm. My W shadow is still going to be there. Then I can Q after. Or I can just relax. Wait for them to use their mobility. Then I Q. Incorrectly positioning in mid-game. Like, people coming from the front. They're never coming in from the side. Now, this one is massive. If there's, like, one thing you take away from this guy, guys, it's similar to Azir in the sense that your offense is your defense. Now, if you just mindlessly use Q every single time to CS, what's going to happen is that you're never going to find an opportunity to use your W-E-Q combo aggressively. So sometimes what you actually need to do is give or pretend you're walking up to Q a CS, but instead of queuing the CS, you just walk forward and then W-E-Q combo. So sometimes you actually got to fake CS to get a really good trade, or maybe you have to give 1 or 2 CS to get a really good trade. And what does that do that twice? Maybe you miss 2 CS, but then they're in kill threat range by level 6. Or you borrow both their pots, that sort of thing. Very important. Not utilizing Yomu's Ghost Blade. It's very important that you find ways to utilize a movement speed buff. Very important. Now, the biggest misconceptions, guys. Zed actually isn't ultimate reliant. It's funny that people think it is, and I initially thought it was as well. You are somewhat, but you're actually not. So let's just say you use your ultimate in a team fight, but you don't kill them. You're still fine, because you can actually pop back, you can actually sit from a distance and W-E-Q auto someone. You do the surprise combo. You can do just the poking from a distance. You can do the W-E-Q, then pop to it, contempt the weak, auto attack, ignite. You can actually do a lot of burst damage even without ultimate. You're not 100% ultimate reliant. That's actually a big misconception. The other misconception is that Zed needs to split push. You do not need to split push. A lot of the time, I'm just catching waves and grouping. Zed needs to get solo kills, otherwise it's GG. That's complete hogwash as well. That's not the case. As you know, you can play quite slow. Zed actually gets pressure against immobile mages. That's not the case. In a lot of matchups, even when you're reversing an Orianna or any form of immobile mage, they can choose to get pressure on you, but they will lose trade. So a lot of the time, because Zed's wave clear isn't super reliable because you want to be using it on the enemy rather than the wave, you will get pushed in a lot, but it doesn't mean you're losing trades. So it's a misconception that you do get a lot of pressure, and people think that Zed doesn't need blue. That's bullshit. Zed is so good with blue buff. Really, really good with blue buff. I beg my jungler a lot of the time for blue buff. Sometimes I don't get it because I don't understand this, but Zed is in mid game, very, very good with blue buff. Now, how to learn Zed. Now, this is very, very important. The first 25 games, guys, I want you to focus a ridiculous amount of time and energy onto hitting that W-E-Q combo. In your reviews, I would look at every single W-E-Q combo and look at it, okay? Was it because you didn't hold long enough to utilize a slow? Was it because you didn't aim the W onto one side? Was it because you didn't posture onto the one side so you usher them onto one side? Was it because you rushed the combo, cast it instantly? Which tip did you not follow, and why are you missing these combos? Or did you overstep and allowed them to trade back onto you? You need to get very comfortable with hitting this combo. This is all you need to be focusing on. And also focus on hitting shurikens in general. Shuriken accuracy, so when you use your combo, I don't care if you kill them or not, as long as you're getting good at hitting the Q itself. And use practice tool. Use practice tool to practice combos. And I didn't do this, and it really messed me up. I think if I would have actually been way better Zed earlier on, if I used practice tool much more effectively to get used to the combos, because if you don't know how to do the combos and the kill actually presents itself and you don't execute, you look like an idiot, you feel like an idiot, and the game, you're most likely just going to lose the game. Make sure you push limits when going for all-ins. Like, don't be afraid, because that's the only way you're going to get good at Zed quick, is that you go for the kill that you thought that was a kill, and if it wasn't a kill, they weren't in kill threat range, then cool. You learn, you go on to next. You learn and improve. You can't ever learn and test the limits of Zed if you're not pushing your limits at all, testing the kill threat. That's how the learning cycle happens. You test, you see the result, you review that, and you refine again and again. Don't feel rushed. Slow down. The game pace is completely fine. Again, very, very important. Don't feel the need to do fancy combos. Stick to the basics, okay? It doesn't have to be sexy. And again, focus on the first 10, 15 minutes. Now, as you start to get to the between 25 and 40 games, then this is where you need to play devil's advocate with your skirmishing. Really start to optimize your skirmishing, you know? Which combo should I have used? How could I have played it? Could I have played slower? Why did I miss that Q? Could I have done a different combo here? Could I have come in from a different angle? That sort of thing. Always think of positioning before the fight. So now, rather than just mindlessly going in with a combo, you're thinking a bit more creatively, thinking, okay, if I actually come from that way and get backline access, that sort of thing, start to think about your positioning a little bit more. Now your W-E-Q combo should be relatively, muscle memory by now. You should be starting to expand to more of the complex combos and know when to use each one. Now maybe it's like, oh, okay, here I can actually use the triple shuriken combo. And in review, you should ask yourself, was this the right combo to use here? Could I have done this differently? Could I have actually flashed or used my Yomu's better here? That sort of thing. Now you should be understanding the key threats onto you. Now you've really realized, especially getting to 30, 35, 40 games, you should know, okay, Nautilus Q screws me in the ass right now. Okay, oh, now Soraka silence, that is annoying. Or Rakan, I need to avoid that. Now you start to know what to avoid, how to adapt, that sort of thing. And also, you should be aiming to categorize how to approach certain matchups. Then what you'll realize is that there's certain matchups that actually beat you at level 2, level 3. Kiana actually can beat you at level 3. There's some champions like Fizz that if you're not careful can beat you at level 3, or there's certain trading patterns or certain ways you'll be like, okay, I need to push really hard level 1 in these ones, I don't really need to push in these matchups, that sort of thing. And last one, again, fake CS for trades. This is what you should be doing around 25 to 40 games. Now 40 plus, this is where you need to be trying not to overkill your opponent. That Pardo guy, that Oceanic Challenger Zed player we have, he said to me, his philosophy with the best Zed players, they know the perfect amount of damage to do in a fight. They don't overkill their opponent. They don't unnecessarily stay in the fight for too long. They don't unnecessarily waste ignite, that sort of thing. If they don't even need to use ultimate, maybe they can just full combo someone with the W-E-Q flash auto attack type thing. Understand the intricacies of the matchup. So there's a matchup with Fizz, for example, where you can, as Fizz Qs onto you, if you actually hold your Q, you can guarantee to hit Q auto onto the Fizz, and he can't avoid any of the damage. A lot of people in that matchup, they'll just throw their Qs mindlessly, then Fizz Qs, and then you lose a trade. But if you hold your Q, then Fizz Qs onto you, you can throw your Q because Fizz can't flash or dodge or anything while the Q animation is going through. You can guarantee the QE auto and proc electrocute before Fizz can really get any damage. So again, these are the intricacies of the matchups you'll start to understand in 40 plus games. Pushing limits with roams, dives, jungle invades, skirmish and teamfight optimization. Again, guys, this is where all of your time and energy, where all of my time and energy goes 40 plus games in. Like, that's all I think about now when I play Zed. It's like, how can I play this skirmish better? How can I play this teamfight better? And you know what? You know the reason this is so important? If you screw one skirmish as Zed, then your game can be over. Because again, we know as Zed, if you get behind the curve and you screw up a skirmish, it can be really hard for you to get back into the game. It's a very feast or famine champion. And then lastly here, creative, pick plays in the side lane. This is where you can be a bit creative and maybe, you know, pink, like maybe sit in the side lane push, or maybe pink in some area, pick them in rotation, find ways to punish people from overstaying, just do little creative picks in the side lane, that sort of thing. Now, guys, I literally have played so many Zed games. Now, this is when I was still learning. So look at this. This is 68 games of Zed I recorded at this point. I still have another like 40, 50 games that I haven't even recorded. Now, the first 35 games here, I was trash. These first 35 games, I was terrible at Zed. Then between 35 to 56, I was still pretty, I would say still pretty average, still pretty bad at Zed. But I was starting to see the strength of Zed as a champion, really understanding, okay, all right, now I'm getting to understand my kill threat, how the matchups start to work, maybe how the Q combo works a little bit. It wasn't until around game 56, 57, that's when I really started to feel like, okay, what sort of game pace do I like? Because I had to figure out all this stuff on my own. I didn't have anyone telling me how to do this. I had to figure it out. I had to grind VODs. I had to just play, test limits. And eventually I spoke to a one trick, like eventually down on the line. But again, I'm just saying I'm a player that's played the game for quite a long time. And I'm not the best mechanical player. But it literally took me 56 games to even feel remotely confident. So guys, don't feel bad for losing on Zed. It takes a lot of games to really get comfortable. And yes, this is playing at a higher level, like around Master Tier level, but for you guys, like, I don't want you to have unnecessary expectations about your gameplay. And literally look at my account. OPGG, I have an account called Test1234. I want you guys to go on OPGG, look at that account. It's called Test1234. Look at that. I literally spammed 60 games in a row of Zed on that account. Blind pick. And I got punished so many games, but this is the painful experiences you got to go through when playing a champion like Zed. You got to all in on it. It's a champion with a very high skill cap, and I just don't want you to feel bad for taking such a long time to pick up this champion. Now, just for jungle combos, guys, for me, my three personal favorites are Elise, Nidalee, and Karthus. The best one's Karthus. So, speaking to the one trick as well, I was saying how Karthus, especially in Korea, Karthus Zed is so strong. And the reason being is that when you go for that level 6 kill, a lot of the time, or sometimes, you're not actually going to be able to get the full kill. Like, they'll be just surviving on, like, 5% HP. If you have Karthus, then it basically guarantees a kill every single time, because it's too early in the game to have stopwatch. They won't have enough armor. You're going to have serrated Dirk. Karthus is going to have ult, and it's a really great way of snowballing both of you. Really ridiculous. Basically, no opponent can survive that burst. Nidalee's good and Elise good for differing reasons. The reason I like Nidalee personally is because she's a very control-oriented jungler. She's very fast jungle clear. She gets a lot of river control, that sort of thing. When I have a lot of river control with Zed, I feel like I can use my Ws very aggressively and play very greedily. But conversely, Elise doesn't get as much river control, but her gank threat is so high. So if she comes mid, we can basically guarantee a kill. So the kill threat and the burst is insane. So it's good for differing reasons. And notable mentions, Eve, Sedge, Silas, Zac, all other really juicy champions when played with Zed. Now, for countering Zed, guys, I usually do that in the guide, but for this specific guide, I'm actually going to do a whole separate video specifically on countering Zed. I'm going to do a long, extensive video on how to counter Zed, because I feel like there's so much information there. I don't want to drag this guide on any longer. So that video will be out hopefully in the next week, something like that. So stay tuned. So what we're going to do now, guys, is dive into some gameplay, breaking down, showing you with real examples, all of these fundamentals, these combos, these sorts of things that we mentioned in this guide. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned in the guide, feel free to hit me up in the comment section below. Join the Discord, ask a question there. Or if you want to get more specific, personable questions and answers, then sign up to my Patreon. Again, guys, remember, this guide, it's not the gospel. This is just my interpretation of Zed. I might be wrong with certain things, but again, this is my experiences. Try it for yourself. We might not have the same experiences. It's very likely. So your elo or the way you play Zed might be very different. So don't take it as gospel. Try all of it. Watch other resources as well and get a different opinion. This is what I think. This is my opinion. Might work, might not. So let's dive straight into the gameplay, guys. So what we're going to do now, guys, is break down an entire game from start to finish. This was a game I played recently, this time playing Zed into Lucian mid. This Lucian, I believe, is around a 350 or 400 LP Grandmaster player. He was an rank 1 pro player. He's a very, very good solo queue player, so I knew this was going to be a very hard lane matchup, and especially since he actually opted in for exhaust, I knew I was going to get bullied a lot in the early laning phase. But what are some of the great things about this composition? I'm actually one of the sole forms of AD on my team. Kai'Sa has a lot of AP, especially if she chooses to build Nash's or something like that. Nunu's AP, Nico's Glacial, she's going AP as well. So it's a really, really good sign for me, because if I'm the sole AD, it's going to be hard for these guys to build much armor, so my lethality is going to be a lot more effective. Now, what is the first thing that I do when heading into a game as Zed? Like I said in the guide, guys, I try to break down and identify already in my mind and specifics which are the key abilities that I need to, play around. How do I adapt my gameplay to play around them? So what do we know? What are the key threatening abilities? Well, first one's exhaust from Lucian, but other than that, Lucian doesn't threaten me too hard in mid game because he has no CC, can't lock me down. Sejuani's a bit annoying especially with her ultimate. Cannon's annoying with his ultimate. Ezreal's actually annoying in the sense that I can't burst Ezreal because he builds Iceborne, so that's something I need to be thinking about in terms of my itemization. Bard's quite annoying because they build tank, they go Guardian. He has a lot of CC with the Q and the R as well, which can actually screw my ultimate. So there's a lot of key threatening abilities that I need to play around. I'm going to have to play fights very slow. Now, the great thing about this VOD, guys, is that I don't play perfectly. I think this is a very good representation of certain things done really well and then certain things done really poorly. So my intention with this VOD is to show you, okay, if I were to review my own Zed game, what would I look for? And really break down the specifics of what I'm doing and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And we're going to look at mid-game, some mistakes in mid-game, some great things done in mid-game, some mistakes in late-game, some great things done in late-game. I think it's a really solid representation of, some mistakes that I make, but also some good things that you can take away and implement in your own games. And it's really going to, hopefully, solidify a lot of the concepts I mentioned in the guide. So, diving straight into this one, Lucian's very annoying, especially his levels 1 to 2. Now, what do we know about Zed, guys? Zed as a champion is very weak levels 1 and 2. He basically very rarely beats any champion in the entire game levels 1 and 2. Very similar to Echo, is that both of these champions spike at level 3. So, as a result, very similarly to how you play Echo, you want to minimize the amount of damage you take levels 1 and 2. Ideally, I just want to be catching waves under tower at levels 2, level 3, get to my level 3 power spike, then I can start to take decent trades with my W-E-Q combo. So, ideally, I want to be letting the wave come into me, minimize my damage, and ideally, really avoid using as many pots as possible. Minimize the amount of pots I have to use as possible. Like, if I can get to level 3 and not have to use any pots, then I'm in a really, really good spot. Because then I know I can play aggressive, heal back with my pots and my taste of blood. I'm in a decent spot. It's not bad to take no damage. Like, you can still take a few autos or whatever because you still can heal back up with Taste of Blood levels 1 and 2. But in saying that, I still try to minimize the amount of damage taken at levels 1 and 2, 95% of matchups. Now, actually, again, I want to go very in detail here, just for the sake of you guys replicating leads. Whenever I'm versing a champion that beats me level 1 and 2, I got to be very careful with how I use Q. If I use Q through the wave and this person doesn't auto the wave, and then this Lucian actually pulls the wave and has it down here, he can actually walk past the wave at level 2 and chase me down or just zone me completely from the wave. So I got to be very careful. So in a lot of these matchups, I actually like to only use my Q on the wave after they've hit the wave, so I know I can thin it, or I know I'm not going to get the wave frozen on their side. So I can safely CS under tower by level 3, that sort of thing. Otherwise, I just want to be poking with my Q, proccing my Scorch. If it's an isolated Q, that's great. Otherwise, just CSing with my Q to level 3. So this guy specifically that I'm versing, he's very good with wave manipulation. He really knows how to build waves very, very well. So I'm just CSing here. from a distance. If I have to miss CS and sacrifice CS just to stay healthy, levels 1 and 2, I will do that. But I still want to maximize the amount of CS that I'm getting here, ideally. So now I know he's slow building into me. I'm just CSing from a distance here. I know he's going to, and what do we know? If they slow build into you, they're going to get level 2 first. And it's always off the first creep of the second wave. So look at that. As soon as I know this creep dies, I know he's going to get level 2. So you can see how he's already posturing up at level 2. So I know I need to respect even before he's at level 2. So because if I walk up here, I'll stay here, and he's at level 2, he's going to EQ auto or E auto Q and destroy me. So I walk all the way back so he can't punish me at level 2. Just stock standard laning stuff, nothing too specific to Zed anyway. But this is the great thing about Zed, is that even in hard matchups, similar to Echo, is that you can minimize quite well without taking too much damage. Now, majority of the time you want to be going E level 2. If you are in a position where you did shove the enemy in, levels 1 and 2, sometimes you do that into, I would say matchups like ranged matchups that have low wave clear. Sometimes you do it into like Vlad, or sometimes you do it into like Ari if they maybe started Charm on an invade or something like that. You can actually get level 2 first, in which you would go W level 2, and you can actually QW the enemy. But I would say 95% of games you're going to be going E level 2, and then, because it's really great for CSing under tower and prepping CS. But here I'm still trying not to take too much damage. Like, I'm okay. I'm okay to give CS and not to stay relatively healthy here, because I know I need to be as healthy as possible by level 3. And that's just a trade-off. And a lot of people just take way too much damage and not willing to give up CS. And then when they do get to a strong point, they can't take trades. So now I'm really trying to wait for a position or a window to trade aggressively. But because I know this is a cannon, and this is actually something I've learned from experience, my default response a lot of games was at level 3, I'll just walk up and posture aggressively, go for a combo. But then what I realized in the process of doing that, if I am versing a very strong level 2, level 3 champion, they will know that, okay, Zed's then used a combo. I can zone him from the cannon. So a lot of the time I actually wait till I get the cannon first with my Q, then I look for a combo, because cannons are just worth so much gold. I'm not willing to give that up. Now you'll see, now I've got the cannon, I've got the wave coming back out a little bit. I know the Sejuani's topside just from basic jungle tracking. Now I can go for those trades. Look at that. Now this is what I'm talking about. So, first thing here, I see Lucian posturing aggressively. So I go to this side, I'm aiming it to one side to usher this Lucian towards me. So that's fine. Then, instead of rushing my Q, because I know that Lucian's going to dash, I wait for Lucian to dash with the slow, then I Q. So I can actually proc the electrocute. So look at this. Bang, I wait for the Q, then I Q. And then I get the really good trade with the electrocute. And it forced the pot out of Lucian already. Now, just look at that. That's one combo. And that's, what, nearly half HP. That's like, what, 40% of HP in one combo. This is how strong this combo is. And you can already see, if I were to land 2 or 3 of these in a row, the lane's over. So, again, trust me, the difference between Zed players is the amount of these combos you win. 80% of Zed is literally that combo. So now, taking a good trade, that's relieved a little bit of pressure here. Now my W's on cooldown. Very, very crucial. If your W's on cooldown, you have to play around it, alright guys? It's very important you identify when your W is on or off cooldown. What do we know? If your W is on cooldown, not only do you have no threat, you have no escape, you're nothing. You're just a bot, you're a pawn. You know, chess, those little pieces, those pawns, that's what you are. Very important that you play around this cooldown. So I'm willing to respect here, not take too much damage. I have to lean heavy onto bot side, knowing that the Sejuani's on the top side here. Just chilling. So I get another beautiful trade there. Look at that. Now, there's actually something wrong with this trade. Look at this. So this trade is great, but why is this a bad trade? This is a bad trade for 2 reasons. It's bad because Lucian wasn't going up to CS. So generally, you want to be timing your W-E-Q combo just like you would with any other champion. Just like you would with Orianna Q or Vict E, etc. When they go up to try and CS, then you would do your combo. Because then they either have to make a choice. Do I give up the CS or do I take the combo to the face? Now, that's the first reason this is bad and quite an unreliable combo. Even though I do it quite well, I aim it and then I posture down and then I get the double Q. But the other reason is that my electrocute was still on cooldown. And I thought that, like, intuitively, I thought that the timing was right, but it wasn't. It was just off. So it's actually sometimes really bad to do a combo when your electrocute is still down. So if I waited an extra second here, the electrocute would have procced and it would have done a lot more damage. Because look at this, it's just coming off cooldown there. So I get the trade, but it would have been much better if I just waited a little bit, a few more seconds there. So now I was actually going toward top side, but then I realized it's too dangerous. So I just chilled back onto bot side here. So I'm just chilling. Now, get ganked, so I just walk away with my W. As you can see, this is quite a rough matchup, but I'm doing quite well in terms of minimizing the early game. I've still got one pot here. Lucian has no more pots. I believe he used maybe 1 or 2 biscuits. I think maybe 1 biscuit and 1 pot. And I actually screw up my all-in. So I hit another combo. Look at that. Hit another combo. So this time I tried to time it with this CS here. I knew that Lucian was going up for an auto attack. So then I time it with the auto attack there. And then I go up and then I land a double shuriken. I get a really nice trade. So here you'll see me screw up an all-in. But, I mean, this was just... I just disrespected the amount of exhaust damage. You'll see it in a second. So again, there I mistimed my Q. I definitely could have timed my Q better there. Now I knew in my mind, what do we know? The wave's pushing into me. I know Lucian needs to recall. So I was semi-panicking in this wave. So I was like, okay, I need to like thin the wave a little bit. I don't want it to be so big that I can't all in, but I know that the wave's going to be in a really good spot for me to all in. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect right now. So I was looking for an all-in combo. Now, I believe, oh, I know why this didn't work. My electrocute. It's the electrocute. So I look for an all-in. I do the perfect combo. I think do I even miss that? Do I hit those 2 shurikens? So I just played out. I was literally, you see it. So close. One more auto as well. So I actually would have killed this Lucian if I waited for my electro. Again, the same mistake. And the reason I made this mistake against this guy specifically is because, like, I have a little... It's like a little... like a grudge against this guy specifically. Like, it's always, whenever I verse this guy, I try super hard. So I think I was tunneling a little bit too hard on that. But as you can see here, the combo was good. The thought process behind it is just a little bit of details there. And this is the perfect example, guys, of all the small details matter. All right? The shurikens hitting, waiting for the electrocute, taking into account exhaust, that sort of thing. I believe that, there's like, I think that second Q misses. I want to pause it on that. Oh, I don't know. I think the second one, I don't know. And anyway, I was thinking, okay, here, and I think he exhausts really early as well. So I think he actually exhausts the initial Q damage as well. And I was like, okay, I can get the Contempt the Weak auto with the Ignite, but then maybe I thought Electrocute was going to come through. I don't know. If Electrocute come through, he died. If that second Shuriken hit, I think he dies as well. So either way, Nunu comes clean up on the back end. And I think in theory, though, you guys can see the fundamentals of Zed there. End up getting my... selling my pot there for refillable, getting a pink ward, using my W out of base, and got my serrated Dirk. So I lose quite a bit of CS here, which is a little bit annoying. But and then I talk to my jungler here, say we can kill at 6. I time his flash, so I know he has no flash. So I know there's gonna be, I'm gonna get 6 very soon. He has no exhaust. Beautiful. This is actually something I didn't even talk about in my guide as well. It's so important. If you go for an early kill or they use exhaust, their exhaust is going to be on a higher cooldown than your ultimate. So if you use your ultimate once, they exhaust, they escape, your ultimate's going to be back off cooldown where you can use your ultimate again. Here, I blew the exhaust early. I knew that we could definitely go for a kill again. Not only because he didn't have flash, but he also doesn't have exhaust. So I tell my jungle, I communicate with my jungle way in advance. And look what I do as well. Because I know I want my jungle to gank, I also pink as well. So I pink for my jungle to guarantee a gank onto this guy. Then I'm trying to bait. Look at this. So I'm actually trying to bait this Lucian in. I know this Lucian doesn't want to let me through the lane. So I'm playing like an idiot. Like, oh, God, let me in, please let me in. And I'm just chilling here. And I bait him in. And I've got the pink ward as well. And then he just eats in, dashes in. And we're able to get it. He's able to clean up that nice little kill on the back end. So I think that's just clean fundamentals there. We know he has no summoners. We know he has no flash, that sort of thing. Getting the pink ward on the correct side, etc., etc. Anyway, that happened. So I believe I just get this wave in. Nothing too special. Go for another recall. Here I was kind of uncertain whether I needed boots, a cloth armor for Tarbies, or just more threat with the longsword. So I end up deciding on a second longsword instead. Just because I'm like, screw it. Like, this is a very aggressive lane. I'm just going to play for kills. Actually, and in terms of coming out of base... Here, I should have been using my W way more aggressively there. I should have used my W, then thought about what I was going to buy, rather than the other way around. I would have been able to save maybe like 2 seconds of tempo there, which is actually pretty big. So, Nunu's actually quite strong this game. Now, I know that he's still not going to have exhaust for a little bit. So, we'll come back to lane. I'm just chilling. So this is actually not a great Zed game with the way it's gone so far. Hit another beautiful combo here, guys. Look at this again. Beautiful. And I'm always walking to the side that I know this Lucian's going to go on. Because see how the shadow, it's slightly there? So if this is the shadow, that's Lucian. Why is that? So that's a shadow, that's Lucian. So I know it's very unlikely that he's going to walk this way or walk that way. It's unlikely. Majority of the time, just the way psychology works is that they will most likely go in this like funnel, this direction. So that's why I'm already, and especially when I path down that way and I start walking this way, it's really easy for me to hit that second Q. Now, if you land the W in the center, it's really hard for you to know which way to Q, because then it could be anywhere. They can walk back, they can walk that way, they can walk that way. Also, yeah, and it's just, so it's very, very important that you're really aiming that combo. Very important. So I get a nice little trade again, just CSing from a distance. But yeah, this is actually not good for Zed, because my CS is not good this game because it's been so chaotic, and I actually missed so many CS when I actually died or traded kills. So I'm just pinging missing here. And again, I don't want to use my W-E-Q combo on the wave, right? So if this Lucian goes missing, I know it's highly unlikely he's going to go roam. And let's say he just sits here. If I use my W-E-Q combo on this wave, or even just my W-E, this Zed's going to be, well, he's got nothing. So again, I know my W's on such a high cooldown. I'm careful with the way I use it. If I can just farm with autos and E's, I will. Okay, that's just an underlying fundamental that I try to apply with Zed at all times. And also for escape reasons, I don't have a ward. I don't have a side to lean onto. So if I don't have a side to lean onto, I'm going to be very careful with the way I use my W and how aggressive I want to use it. So here, I do that. I do a shitty combo. That's a terrible combo, Curtis. So if you want to know what not to do, that's what not to do on Zed. That's the first bad combo that I've done. Now, what do we know here? So here, my wave's in a really bad spot. He's actually going to freeze it potentially. Now, I want to give you a little tip, guys. When this happens and you're versing someone who potentially wants to freeze, the strength of Zed is that you can actually roam. Again, you can roam quite well. And let's just say I don't have the tools or the vision or the ability to actually break this free without getting all in. Then what I'll do, I'll just leave. I'm like, all right, you can freeze. I'm just going to roam. And now I saw a bot skirmish actually happen. And then the enemy panics. The enemy will then panic. And a lot of the time, they'll have to leave and try and follow you. Or they'll try and break the free, or like, you know, or you'll be able to get a roam off. A lot of the time, you can make the enemy panic. So here, I just walk. And then what happens? Because he's trying to follow that wave, he can't hold it. And then it just crashes onto tower. So I try to come here, and then they escape, which is fine, and then I'm turning, and then I see Lucian potentially in river, and what's the first default response? Time flash, I tell my jungle he has no flash, because I didn't know maybe he was camping in river. So the wave actually crashes. That's a nice little tip here. End up clearing a bit of ward, some wards, fast forwarding, get a ward onto one side so I can lean. I'm still timing this guy's flash. I'm only down like 10 CS, like 9 or 10 CS, so it's not too bad. Here, again, I didn't want to use my W. Look at that. So here, this is how disciplined I am with my W. I know my Nunu and my Thresh in the area. I know the enemy recalled. So instead of using my W to escape here, because I know if I use my W to escape, I'm not going to be able to follow up on a gank. So I'd rather take the damage knowing that, okay, I still got my W. So then if I can bait the enemy in, and then I can follow up on a gank. And then Thresh, because they know he has no flash and I've timed it before. They come through, and now I'm able to follow up on the gank because I have my W. And I wouldn't have had that. I wouldn't have been able to have that luxury if I used my W. But if I knew this was an isolated 1v1 and my team wasn't in the area, then I just would have W'd away, and I wouldn't have taken barely any damage from the culling, is it? I think it's called the culling. So now I feel quite safe to get the wave out, so I end up queuing through the wave here. I believe I don't use W because I didn't have enough energy to even use the full combo anyway. So I just spend the energy just on the Q and the E. Nunu gets this. I really need to recall. Now, this is a big mistake. This may seem like this may seem small, but it really matters. You really want to ideally not use your W like this to get into a safe read. It's better just to walk. Like, you save more time by just walking. The reason being is now I don't have W. Look, it's on a, 20-second cooldown. I then base. We know Zed is like an 8-second cooldown. I get my Yomus and save for a pink ward here in a second. Now my W is not on cooldown. So I would have been able to W out of base here way earlier. So I use my Yomus anyway. It's just a little thing there. And then I use my W. And by the time I get back to lane, my W is not off cooldown. So just a little thing there. But if I actually used it earlier, then I would actually have W as I get. And if something happens, then I don't have my W, you know. It's just like, just little things like that just kind of matter. Yes, it doesn't matter in this specific moment, but it's just the premise behind it. So now I'm quite strong. I got my Yomus. So I'm ready to pounce. So I thought he was going to be here. And then he ends up just getting the Scry's Bloom or something. Okay. Not too bad, not too bad. Oh, this is... do I get this combo? Oh, yeah. I get that nice combo. That was a bit sketchy. This is actually not a good combo. That was a dead center combo. And I was just a risk. I was just like a feel thing. I got that combo. I should not get that combo off. Oh, I think I go for an all-in here soon as well. Because I knew he had exhaust, but so I couldn't have gone for that combo. And now wait for my Q to come back up. And I missed my Q. No! Again! Alright, let's look at this. So, a few things here. If this guy doesn't have exhaust, I would actually probably go on this right now. I would actually probably pop back to that W. Like, fake, pop back to that W. Insta-Alt E. And then flash Q ignite, he dies without exhaust, super easy. But because he has exhaust, I can't do that. So I wait for my Q back up, and I wait for him to disrespect a little bit. So I want to wait for my W cooldown. So then I E auto, and now here, what I should have done, because I actually wasn't sure in my mind, I didn't think that if he had flash or not. If I knew he didn't have, if I knew he had flash, I probably just would have popped back to my R. Then maybe like threw out my W, then WQ, and then or something like that, or even like WQ, or then pop to my W and then flash auto or something like that. But my thought process here was, okay, my W's coming up in 2 seconds. Maybe I can withstand some of these auto attacks, keep auto attacking him, and then maybe like WQ. But then I realized I was taking too much damage, so I have to pop back. This was just a miscalculation of him. He played it really well, and I missed my Qs as well, so I panicked. Whenever I miss my Q, my brain just panics. So here I thought, okay. Oh, because he dodged forward instead of backwards as well, which is really good by him. So he did his way, and I thought his default response in a lot of these situations, people want to go back to the tower. But in hindsight, the reason that he actually went upwards is because look at my champion. My champion's actually cutting him off this way. So it's actually his default response is going to be path topside. So I should know if I'm on the deeper side of him, he's going to path up. But if I'm on this side of him, then he's going to go down. So here I should have known that he's probably most likely going to dodge upwards here. So, I missed my Q, and then he just survives. Again, I thought, and my premise here was if I auto him a few times, that's going to do more damage, because the more damage you do through in your ultimate, it does more damage on the pop. So I thought that would be able to kill him. So there's so many ways I could have killed this guy better here. And as you can see, this is, again, it's the perfect thing of, like, small details matter. I could have got the first solo kill so much easier. I could have got this solo kill much easier. And again, the same thing here. I didn't even factor in electrocute. My electrocute was on cooldown. I think here I just thought he was going to base or something, or heal back up with too many orders with his lifesteal, so I didn't wait for electrocute. But to be honest, here I should have just waited for my W cooldown a little bit longer. Or just hit my Q, Curtis. That works as well. Or here I just ult, and then I just flash Q. Here, I honestly just flash Q, like point blank, and then I just get it. I shouldn't have waited for my W. I should have just screwed it and just flash Q auto, and he just dies. Whatever, man. But as you can see, there's the premise there. I'm thinking about the cooldowns. I'm trying to assess my... I knew that I had my spike. I had my Yomu, so I really wanted to go for a kill. But he ended up using exhaust, and I still have flash, so I thought it wasn't too bad. So I end up trying to find Lucian here. He ends up backing up, I think. I thought he backed up. So I went back to the lane here. I was like, all right, I'm just going to play for the wave, because I didn't have vision. And then I see him again. So I'm like, all right, I'm killing this guy, man. Come on. Give me the kill. I was very bloodthirsty this game because I wanted to kill this guy. Then I'm looking for a combo because I know he has flash. It's like mind games. He has flash and I have flash, so I got to be very careful here. And then Zed just pops over. I was trying to hold my W, thinking that Lucian might get in range, and then Zed just flashes on me and kills me. God damn it, man. That just tilted me. So that happens. Nico cleans up on the back end here, which was really, really good. Come back to lane. So, as you can see, what could have been a really easy snowball easy lane for me, from a few little micro mistakes, the game is much harder. Like, yes, me and Lucian, neither of us are kind of that strong right now because we've just traded kills a lot. But as you can see, yeah, it's been a bit of an uphill battle. And that's why I think this VOD was so good to show, is because, again, the higher elo you get as well, people are better at dodging Qs, and they're better at understanding your kill threat, and they're better at both itemizing and taking exhaust. A lot of people in the lower elos as well, they're not going to dodge Qs well, they're not going to take exhaust, they're not going to understand your kill threat, things like that. So, very important. So here I get chunked, and instead of just basing or using my pots, I just quickly get the fruit. So now, what's next? So now it's a dragon fight. So everyone's looking to group for this dragon, and the higher elo you get, people get obsessive over dragons, which is very, makes a lot of sense because it's such an important objective. So my thought process here is, when there's a dragon fight, I need to be coming in from the side. Any objective, I don't want to be coming front to back. I need to be coming from the side. So look what I do here. I sit on the side up here. Even if they know where I am, it doesn't really matter. I'm like, cool, you know where I am, but still, I'm still there, and you're not going to be able to play the front to back fight. So then I come in from the side here like this. Boom. Full combo onto Lucian. Bang. Really easy, and then I just play the front to back fight. Now, yes, this fight probably would have worked front to back anyway, but even maybe not, because Kennen would have zoned me, and it would have been really hard for me to get back onto the back line. But here, as you can see, it's a perfect example. There's the 5v5 or the 4v5, but then I'm coming in from the side. Ideally, it wouldn't even be in this position in the first place. Ideally, I'd even have a pick, but you don't always have that luxury. So then I go for that combo. I wait for them to use their abilities, then I go in. I feel like here I actually could have... Did I play that well enough? Did I even hit my combo fully? I think I W-E-Q. Yeah, I think I did hit it quick. Yeah, I hit it fully, and then he just pops. Cool. Okay. So as you can see, that's the theory of how you want to play those mid-game fights. Very important distinction to make. And it really will increase the effectiveness of your kit in getting that damage off. So now, as we talk about wave clearing, I know the wave's in a straight line now, so I do the W-E-Q combo through the entire thing. Now I can just use my passive autos to get them down. Now here, end up greeting for tower, because again, Zed is a champion. If you end up breaking the enemy's tower, mid lane tower, it just booms the game. The reason being is that it gives you way more room to roam. They're way more threatened, way more room to chase down. You have more pressure, more jungle control. Just overall, just a super massive objective. So even if it comes at the cost of tempo, if you ever get the opportunity to break mid tower, I would highly recommend doing it. So here I overstay. My tempo is completely screwed. Lucian's already coming back on the map. But you know what? Screw it. Like, I got the mid tower, and that's game changing. So I go back. Now, I'm in a decent spot. I'm pretty much even CS with this Lucian, but this Ezreal's very strong, and he's someone who's kind of counters me, so it's going to be quite hard. And Nunu has all the kills, so it's a bit tricky here. So I end up going for Tarbies this game. I think Tarbies, in hindsight, was a and I end up realizing I didn't have Sweeper, so I think here, one of these times, I think it was on my next base, I go back for Sweeper. Here, to be honest, I actually could have swapped Sweeper now because I am relatively strong. I usually swap to Sweeper when I feel like I get pressure, but I wasn't 100% sure that I'll get pressure yet because I know Lucian as a champion is very good into Zed because of how much mobility he has and how hard it is for him to, how hard it is for me to hit my shurikens. Plus he has exhaust, plus he has actually Borg finished. So, maybe that was the reason, but a lot of the time, this is the time where you would be wanting to swap to Sweeper. Especially for your passive as well. Even though I already have 5 stacks of my zombie ward, I want to be stacking that up to 10 as fast as possible because you get that extra bit of adaptive force, I believe. But anyway, here I'm actually matching Lucian in the side lane. End up going Tarbies, which I think is a mistake. I think I'm just, again, tunneled on the 1v1. Tarby's is good if it does help me get pressure in the 1v1, but I still think Mercs is probably better because they have a Sejuani, they have a Bard, and they have a cannon. All those champions, Mercs would be very valuable. So the reason here I'm not going aggressively, because I wasn't actually sure if he had exhaust or not, and I knew his team was... I didn't actually know where Sejuani was in the moment. I actually didn't see Sejuani here because I was tunneling so much on CSing. So my thought process was, okay, his team most likely is going to be trading sides of the map because my team is doing Rift Herald. So either it's a 4v4 top side or they're trading that off and they're going to be looking to dive me on the bot side. So when you're on weak side of the map, you really don't want to be heavy trading because then it just gives the enemy a play opportunity. But then when I see Bard here and I see Sejuani start to path up towards the top side of the map, you'll see me start to use my W a little bit more aggressively. But anyway, nothing too special here. CS under tower. Then I ask for blue, and he actually gives me blue, which is very big for me. Now, this was actually a big game-changing moment. I actually wanted to go for this play mid. So I end up pathing. I was pathing on my way mid, but then Nunu ends up going bot onto Lucian. So I'm like, okay, I gotta help my Nunu because he's gonna get soloed otherwise. So I end up just going to help my Nunu for the play. Even hindsight, this is probably the wrong. I know this is the wrong call, but it was just my call. It was just my decision in the moment. So I get the double shuriken there. Get his exhaust out, which is really big. Into rifting on the side lane, getting the side lane here. And notice how my default response in all of these situations, though, is always to be in the side lane and then group. Here, regardless if I went for this bot lane play or not, I could have come up from the side here and had backline access. This would have been a really good play if me and Nunu came up from the side, because Lucian wouldn't be here. I'd be coming in from the side. It'd be a really good play for me. I have flash, ignite, everything. Because Nunu went for that bot play, I'm like, oh, then maybe they can disengage and I can just get the free pick here. But as you can see, regardless, it's about the positioning that I was in the first place. So I end up using this rift, overstaying, getting this tower, escaping, and then spacing. Now I've got my dust blade, which is incredibly important. Swap to my sweeper here, got my pink ward, absolutely popping. Now, next fight here is a dragon fight. Again, so what I want to be doing, if the next play is a dragon, or whatever, I want to be on the side of the next objective. So here, dragon's up in 45 seconds. I want to be pushing out the side lane and coming in from the flank. I want to be threatening from the side lane here. So I get to the side lane, get some wards down, get a pink ward. Now I know I can use my W-E-Q aggressively here for the wave because I have a pink ward in the tri-bush here. And now I'm trying to look for a pick. If someone shows on the side lane, I can look for a pick. If they overposition, that sort of thing. So here I was actually going to look for a pick on the cannon here, using my sweeper just to make sure there's no vision. Now, and I was going to use my W-E-Q aggressively here, but then Bard pops through here, uses the Q onto me, then Sejuani ends up coming, and then I blow flash. Now, that may seem really bad, which I think it was a bit of an overextension from me. I think the only reason I went for this is because I actually thought they were trading objectives. Because Lucian shows top, so I'm like, all right, Cannon's just bot. They're just giving the dragon completely. Maybe they're most likely they should be all topside right now, looking for this tower while we go for dragon or something like that, or establishing Baron vision for 20 minutes as it's like 1850 right now. And they just trade the dragon off. So I thought Cannon was actually alone. So I was just trying to posture. And actually here, I actually wasn't going to W. I was just trying to push him all the way back. But then they just popped behind me. So it's fine. They use everything. Now they have no ult anyway, so they can't contest dragon regardless. So here I end up getting another wave or whatever, recalling, swapping lane assignments, because now I need to be topside because dragon Baron's the next objective. Now, something to note here. Me and this Lucian had even CS the entire game around now. But this is where he really started to get a lot of CS, from this moment all the way back here. So he starts to get a lot of CS because this Lucian does a really good play from behind. When you're behind, it's really good to just trade objectives, because now this whole time while we're dicking around playing for this objective, he's just farming up a storm topside. For some reason, Nico's grouped so early, maybe because Nico wants to punish people who face check, but he just shoves top this whole time, gets all this CS. Now he ends up getting like 20 CS up ahead of me. Right now, when I press tab, he's 162, I'm 142. So he's actually got a lot of CS right now. So now I have to, Nico TP's top, I have to back. This whole time he was CSing topside. And now Lucian's been farming the whole time. I haven't had any farm. So, and they take blue off me for some reason as well. He actually gets it by accident. And now Nico's got the wrong lane assignments. I've had no farm. So I'm like, screw it. We need to force something. So I'm pinging Barons. I'm like, well, I have no lane to farm. Cannon's all the way bot. Let's force a TP because Nico doesn't have TP right now. So you notice my intention with my mindset when playing Zed is like, I'm always trying to, again, like, if I'm not farming in the side lane, I want to force an objective, let them come to us so I can get a flank or something. Like, I'm always trying to find a way to push the pace of the game in some form of way when I've got a lead. But if I don't have a lead, I don't need to. I can just continue to farm. So as you can see here, guys, generally, this is not the way I would play mid-game. Generally, I would play a lot slower. I would be in the side lane, but because the lane assignments were so cooked, like, I just felt really rushed. I knew we were getting really far behind on farm. And I know, as a champion, Zed, if he gets behind the curve in farm, you're going to have a really, really bad time. So I knew that if they tried to contest, I don't want to be stuck in the pit right now. So my initial response here is, like, I need to get into a position and try and look for a pick because we lose this fight. So I see Lucian coming. So I do the W-E-Q Combo, R, and then pop back and he just dies. So again, this combo here, I should have done the Pardo combo. I think the Pardo combo would be my... the Pardo combo actually doesn't kill yet, I don't think, because he has too much. He has that bullshit rune. So I actually get really lucky and do a full combo into him and kill him, even through the exhaust. I think Nico damaged him as well, but I get the kill. But then we end up losing this fight because we just take way too much damage here. But now I know I'm still not useless. Like, I'm not backing out of the fight because I still have I can still poke, but then we just get rinsed by the, cannon ult, kill him. But you can kind of see my intention here. But at least we got the TP out of the cannon, which was really, really good. So I get some farm here. I back up, wait for my last whisper, farm a little bit more gold, get my last whisper. Now I've got my last whisper because I saw that they had quite a bit of armor at this point. I mean, anyway, Ezreal anyway, that's the main culprit, and they've got Tarbis and things like that. And I saw a stopwatch onto Kennen. Now, notice how I'm coming out of base. I'm always clicking tab. So I'm always clicking tab. Just what do they have? How much armor do they have? Now, I actually believe I don't upgrade this last whisper into a Lord Dominik's. I just sit on the last whisper. If they had a lot of armor, I would actually probably swap this to I would actually upgrade this fully to a Lord Dominik's, but that's actually not the case. Here as well, because I actually had a considerable amount of burst, I was kind of thinking, should I have actually just got like a Black Cleaver or a Edge of Night? I actually think either of them would have been good, but because I saw them starting to get a bit of armor, I knew Kennen would get a Zhonya soon. This guy's already got an Iceborne. This guy's got a Rent. He's got it with Dead Man's Plate. And people getting Tarbis and things like that. I'm like, it's good to have a little bit of armor pen here. But anyway, I'm always checking items out of base to see who has stopwatch, who has Zhonya's, that sort of thing. Now I know Kennen's used his East, who has no self-peel, so I look for try to look for an aggressive trade here, wait for the CC to come down, then I get the full combo off. I'm not going in because I know I can get one shot through the ultimate. We end up getting a nice little pick there. Get that. I actually have to quickly recall because I get absolutely chunked. Now, again, I need to go on the side lane because I know the next objective is a dragon. So the next objective is a dragon, so I'm trying to position on the side where the next objective is. So I get a pink ward down. I'm trying to maneuver myself in a way that I can get backline access. Use my W-E-Q aggressively here because I know I have a bit of time to do so and a bit of space. Now, here I know that we're actually looking for a cloud. I believe this is this the Soul Dragon? It might be. Always checking itemization, trying to find a way to look for a pick here. I was going to look for a pick here, but then Kennen doesn't walk the greedy way, he goes a long way. So I just back up a little bit here. I don't want to show on the wave, so I'm just kind of hiding out of vision. Now, I use my... oh, look at this, by the way. Look at this. So you know how I was talking about that Duskblade thing to show you vision? Notice how this is, the Duskblade's there. Notice when I go into vision, it will go on cooldown, which will tell me that, you know, I'm spotted by the enemy. So look at this. You'll see it in a second. As soon as I get in vision, look at that. The Duskblade goes off cooldown, goes on cooldown. So it's very important that, I mean, that's that little gimmick. So if that bush was watered, I didn't have a pink or I didn't have a sweeper, I could tell if that was watered or not by that little passive. Just a little tip there. But anyway, look at this. Now I'm going to come in from the flank. I've come here. I'm threatening. Now I don't need to commit. Now, even if I know they saw me, but they just know I'm here. So now these guys can't go deeper because they know that I have backline access. So if they were all alive, even if they were all alive, someone then has to deal with me. So then if someone has to deal with me, either I can take that 1v1, or I can just blast go and go this way, or I can look for a poke damage and make it a 4v4, or an advantageous 5v5, something like that. I'm distracting them. I'm trying to pull them in certain directions to make it harder for their enemy carries to get into the fight. Anyway, that gets the dragon. Now we're looking towards the Baron here. Now, again, the same thing. I'm trying to put myself in a position to make a big... Now, I see Lucian up here, so I know Lucian's going to walk up here. Now, this is actually... I do a really bad... I missed my combos here, and I think I would have 100-0'd him. So now I know Lucian's going to come through, so I sit in this bush. I believe now I do the unseen combo, because I know Lucian is as a champion. If I start this fight with R, it's going to be way too hard for me to get the triple shuriken combo, because I know he can just dodge it. This is going to be really, really hard for me to get the triple shuriken off, so I decided to do the unseen combo. Now, I screw up my combo. I actually missed both my shurikens. He actually would have died here. Now, this just shows how big mechanical misplay is. And you know how I was talking about in the guide, how dangerous this combo is. If you miss the one shot with this combo, you're screwed. Like, there's no getting out, essentially. So I end up using the combo, missing it. He ends up exhausting. I run one way, flash the other, and then knowing that my clone's all the way back here. So just another little tip: if your clone's all the way back here, you want to be running in a direction opposite to your clone. I wouldn't really be running this way, because then if I pop back, he's still here. So my default response is to run as far away as possible from my ultimate clone, so I can always jump back to it and create that space. So I miss my combo, whatever. He exhausts me. I flash the other way, pop back, and I try to Q him on the back end. Even if I hit that Q, he still doesn't die, but then he heals back up on the blue. So it just shows you how important it is to be very, first of all, hit them, know what combo to use, and more importantly, hit the Q. So I think that was a really good example of the right combo, but wrong execution. And that's something I would spend a disproportionate amount of time, if you're 40 plus games into, is literally looking at those skirmishes. So the skirmish kind of like goes out a little bit. It's turning into a very sloppy, scrappy fight here. Again, I'm always trying to position myself around the side to look for a pick. I see them overextend. Now I come from the side. Bang. Get another pick on. I'm just being that annoying ninja in the background. But then Kennen ends up like TPing and then killing me here, which is pretty annoying. But anyway, you can see the premise. So, all because I missed that combo, that fight ends up being very, very rough. Now, Ezreal is very, very fed at this point in time. And the same thing happens. I'm trying to sweep vision around the Baron, get to the objective first. So I'm trying to get to the objective first. We get to the objective first. I wait for Bard to come, and then we look for a nice little pick here onto this Bard. We get a nice little pick. Beautiful. Now what happens here? Thresh gets caught. Kai'Sa takes blue off me for some reason because he doesn't understand how important it is. Now, again, I'm trying to find a way to get onto this Ezreal because he's actually the only person I can kind of threaten right now. So look at me. I'm coming from the side here, waiting for them to overextend, waiting for someone else to engage here. Then I saw Nunu come in. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go in for a little combo here. I don't know if I was going to commit. So this is a delayed combo. I was trying to do the delayed combo and force out the Ezreal E here. So I use my combo to chunk, and I end up getting Ezreal's E, and then I pop back and then go onto the Ezreal here with the E, and then they just exhaust me, and I can't really do anything. He nearly dies, but it's not enough. I think here, I just went too early. I think I need to wait. Like, I still had plenty of time on my W. If I actually look at my W here, I think this was really good. But I should just W-E, the Q, and look at the cooldown here. You actually see that little yellow bar? That's how much time I have. I should wait for my team to come forward a little bit here, because they're actually getting screwed by Kennen. Or I just don't go in whatsoever and just play a little bit slower here, because I played too fast for my team. Because the Kennen actually just flanked our team here. So, or I don't go on the Ezreal, I go on the Lucian. But Lucian was positioning really far away, so I couldn't really get in range of the Lucian. How do I play this better? Maybe I just hold my W-E-Q combo. Maybe I just wait here. I wait for Ezreal, because Ezreal has to walk up and E aggressively here to get in range to do damage. So maybe I just wait. If I just wait, maybe they're gonna... I stop them from being able to do damage. Maybe I peel back onto the cannon or something. Or just literally being here, and you know how I talk about threat, my threat of presence? Maybe I just be patient. And this is something that comes with time as you get from 40 plus games onwards. This is all I spend my time on. It's like skirmishing, like my laning's fine, like I can optimize my all-ins and things like that I think about, but like largely most of my time and energy in my games revolves around skirmishing and team fighting. How can I optimize, juice my kit, do the right combo, play in a really optimal way? So here in this fight, I think the premise was good, but the execution was poor. I think I just could have played a little bit more patient. And because my Q wasn't up as well, that's the other micro misplay here. Because I threw my Q and I panicked because I thought, okay, he has no E now. That's my go time. But I should wait another like 2 seconds here, because my W still be up, and then I'd go in, then I E auto, then my Q will be up, because when I go in here, my Q's actually just not up in time, so then it just comes up, and by the time it comes up, I'm like dead. So I actually could have killed this Ezreal if I waited another 2 seconds there as well for my Q. So just like little things like that. So as you can see, versing Ezreal is a pain in the ass. They end up getting Baron here. They end up kind of cleaning them on the back end. And then again, I'm always trying to position sneakily around the next objective. We start this, but now it's getting really hard. Now Ezreal ends up seeing me. I thought Ezreal was going to walk all the way around, but he sees me. It lands a really max range Q on me, and they're just pumping me around. Now it's so hard for me to position in these fights now versus Ezreal. Like, it's really, really hard. This is why I ban Ezreal a lot as well. So we end up killing the cannon. It's so hard. It's such a hard game for me right now. And the only reason it's so hard is because I'm behind the curve. If I had a lot of CS this game, I wouldn't have to worry about that. I'd be way more durable. I'd probably have my Black Cleaver by now. Probably have Lord Dominic's and Black Cleaver. You know, it's just that this is the sad reality of getting behind as Zed. It's just a sad reality of the situation. So we end up getting the Elder here, and then pushing out the side wave. Nothing too special here. Get my Black Cleaver for more durability. Again, coming in, trying to come in from the side as much as possible. Prep the side wave. What happens here? Boom. And then we end up ending the game. So this was a really solid game to go over. I think it highlights a lot of the great things. It also highlights a lot of the mid-game misplays. So what I want to do now quickly is just quickly go over to another VOD here of I just want to go over 2 or 3 minutes of, again, another mid to late game, because I get a lot of questions about mid to late game on a champion. Again, here, 15 minutes into the game, I'm actually versing this Shen. Me and this Jax temporarily swapped lanes, but I saw that he actually had no armor. He actually had built no armor yet, and I had finished my Ghost Blade. So I knew there was actually quite a bit of kill threat. So I'm just playing slow here, wait for the CC, dodge the taunt, sorry, because I identified that as a kill threat. Wait, get the slow, get a really good combo, boom. Really simple kill onto the Shen. Now, my default response is to shove out, get towers. Then, again, here, recalling out a vision, trying to look for a pick. Now, okay, this is what I wanted to talk about here. So after I get that kill, and I get the tower, my default response, if I know my team is looking for a Rift Herald, I'm always trying to position off the side to get myself into a position where if they come or face check, I can get a pick here. So I pink here. This is why it's always going to have pinks on hand. It's always handy to have pinks. It's always handy to have sweeper, although I don't have sweeper here. We move all the way down here. Then I start to recall. My team's recalling. Then I believe Elise face checks. Do a full combo, one shot. So it's just, again, this is the importance of positioning and just thinking about where you need to be in mid game. Very, very important. Now, I know the next objective, I believe, was this dragon. So I end up swapping lane to bot side. So I end up going, oh, sorry, top side, sorry. Next objective was Baron. It was actually Baron, so I needed to be top side temporarily here. So I end up shoving out top. And then my default response, I don't want to sit in a side lane and split push. I just want to be pushing and coming from the side. Push and come to the side. Push and come to the side. So here, I'm trying to look for a pick in rotation. He's not biting at all, so I just catch more waves here. And then, again, the great thing about this is what I said before, is when I verse a Shen, I like to play towards a Shen. So, get a nice little trade, pop back on that W. Get a nice little combo. I think I get double shuriken, ignite, and then we end up killing this Shen. So as you can see, my thought process in mid game, I'm not trying to necessarily split. I'm always trying to create chaos by pushing and looking for picks in transition. I'm looking for that skirmish. I'm looking for that flank. I'm not just grouping mindlessly, but I'm not just splitting mindlessly. I want the fight to be played around me. And I'm always just playing around these side lanes, being creative with my plays. And if I know my team's playing on the opposite side of the map, I'll push and just rotate. I won't just sit there forever because I know I don't have TP. So guys, hopefully you got quite a bit from this guide. I know it's quite heavy, very intensive. And And if you have any questions about Zed, feel free to let me know. It's a very fun champion. Hopefully this can speed up your process of learning this champion. But yeah, really appreciate the support, guys, and cheers.